Warrior Lore. Chapter 1936. It was a man who looked to be in his 30s. He was tall and burly, with a deep and fair face that had sharp edges and corners. As he looked at the man, Du Xiaofu felt some fluctuations in his soul. Second Prince, it's the three of them? The pale-faced Long Ming looked at Du Xiaofu, Yelu Han, and Du Gufinshan, who were trapped in the formation. His eyes were dark and intimidating. Leave this one to me. You guys deal with the other two. The man Long Ming called the second crown prince spoke. His voice was ethereal but powerful. His voice contained the roar of a dragon, and the might of a dragon filled the air. The weaker creatures in the surroundings trembled inwardly when they heard this voice. Their minds trembled, and they almost fell from the mountain stream. So strong. Just one word was enough to make the experts from the Red Fire Demonic Lion clan, the Heavenly Serpent clan, and the Demon Vulture clan tremble. Chila. As soon as he finished speaking, the man's figure descended from the sky. His hair danced in the wind, and his eyes were like rubies. He pointed at Du Xiaofu and said, "You dare to offend us, dragons? Die." "You are Long Tu?" Du Xiaofu replied. From the way Long Ming addressed him, he had already learned from his future father-in-law, Qi Mingxian, that Long Yi and Long Air had both arrived at the Heavenly Devil battlefield. At this moment, the second prince was most likely Long Air. "Since you know who I am, then you didn't die in vain." Long Tu was very strong. His expression was cold and indifferent. A kind of red flame began to pervade the surroundings. This flame was different from the flame on Long Tung's body. It was much stronger than the flame on Long Tung's body. The crimson flames surged and spread. They were like crimson waves that permeated the mountain stream, causing Long Air to feel as though he was in a sea of flames. His entire being was like a god with an imposing and disdainful aura. Du Xiaofu's eyes darkened. Sure enough, it was that Long Tu. It was rumored that even powerful and arrogant existences like Qin Wudi and Gongsun Wuji were afraid of Long Tu. It was enough to show how powerful Long Tu was. However, Du Xiaofu wasn't afraid at all. He glanced at Long Tu, but didn't say anything. Then, he swept his gaze over the various forces and experts around the mountain stream. His expression darkened, and he said in an indifferent tone, "The heavenly treasures in the Heavenly Yu Mountain can only be obtained by those who are fated to obtain them. Since you can't obtain them, it means that you don't have the opportunity to do so. Therefore, I've always taken things that don't belong to anyone. If you retreat now, I can pretend that nothing happened today." His voice reverberated through the mountain stream, causing everyone's expressions to change. It was true that Du Gufinshan and the other two did not kill them when they were robbed. "You're about to die, yet you're still so arrogant." Long Tu opened his mouth. He couldn't tolerate a nameless person being so arrogant and domineering in front of him. He didn't put him in his eyes at all. His voice was like a dragon's roar, and the void rumbled. The sound waves were like waves of air that swept over and suppressed Du Xiaofu. Humph! Du Xiaofu let out a deep snort. The sound waves reverberated and collided with the former sound waves, shattering them. This scene caused a ripple to appear in Long Tu's ruby-like eyes. Then, he tapped the void with the tip of his foot and waved his arm. In an instant, monstrous crimson flames erupted and condensed into a giant sword. It had a terrifying aura that could sweep through thousands of soldiers and horses. Its aura was shocking as it instantly slashed toward Du Xiaofu. The giant sword slashed the mountain stream and split the cliff. Huge rocks were turned into fine powder, and the ground cracked into ravines. However, Du Xiaofu's figure disappeared from his original spot. Pissed, when Du Xiaofu's figure reappeared, he was already in front of Long Tu. He waved his hand and punched, causing the void to rumble. The space in front of his fist crumbled inch by inch, and it instantly spread to the front of Long Tu. At this moment, Long Tu's expression darkened again. "You're courting death." However, Long Tu didn't back down. His ruby-like eyes were cold as he stared at Du Xiaofu. His figure leaped, and his powerful foot directly stomped on Du Xiaofu's fist. Although Long Tu rarely left the Four Seas, he had been famous for a long time. He had no intention of competing for supremacy in the world. He only wanted to set foot in the Saint Plain and set foot in the ranks of the strongest in the world. However, such a move already proved that he was swift and decisive. He was ruthless and arrogant. He didn't put others in his eyes and was full of arrogance. Boom! The fist and the foot collided. Runes blazed, and crimson flames burned the void, causing a sonorous rumble in the air. Du Xiaofu's figure was shaken back. His footsteps staggered, and he broke the void. After several steps, he stabilized his body. However, his physical body wasn't injured. Qila, Long Tu's body was also shaken back. After several steps, he stomped on the air and stabilized himself. His feet were numb. He stared at Du Xiaofu. His opponent's strength was beyond his imagination. You have some strength, but it's not enough. Long Tu didn't stop. He couldn't tolerate the person in front of him being so indifferent in front of him. He wanted to kill his opponent as fast as possible. It could also be considered as telling the world that the person who defeated Han Keifeng of legalism was not his opponent. He hadn't fought in the world for too long. He needed a chance to tell the world that he, Long Tu, had returned. This mysterious purple-haired man in front of him was his chance. Boom! Along with those words, Long Tu clenched his fist. His claw distorted the void, and like a dragon claw, it swept towards Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu's eyes were cold. He didn't say anything superfluous. He loosened his fist and opened it into a palm. His palm drew a half-circle in front of him. Suddenly, a ray of light burst out, penetrating through the sky and neutralizing Long Tu's claw. Attack, deal with Dugu Finchin and Yelu Han. Long Ming was full of confidence as Long Tu attacked. He directly transformed into his true dragon form and rushed towards the seal that enveloped Yelu Han and Dugu Finchin. Everyone's eyes sank. There was no one who didn't fear Yelu Han, Dugu Finchin, and that mysterious purple-haired man. The three of them were too terrifying. They weren't people that anyone could provoke. The three of them have gone too far. Take back the treasures. An expert of the demon vulture race shouted. He wanted to take back the treasures. He directly attacked with Long Ming. Take back the treasures. Those treasures affected everyone's heart. Suddenly, all the experts gritted their teeth and rushed out, bursting out rays of light that reached the sky. Boom! Chi waves surged up to the sky like waves. Numerous experts took action, sweeping towards the seal that enveloped Yelu Han and Dugu Finchin. Rumble. The earth quaked and the mountains shook. Many powerful attacks swept across the seal, causing the seal to crack. The surrounding rocks exploded and cracked. However, the seal was not completely broken. The seal that Du Xiaofu had set up was definitely not something that could be broken so easily. Break! Long Ming roared and his dragon claws tore through the sky. Oh! In an instant, there was a deafening lion's roar. The lion seal erupted. Demon vultures rushed out, heavenly snakes coiled around, and fists pierced through the void. Wave after wave of powerful attacks swept towards the seal like a tidal wave. Boom! But at this moment, the void suddenly became violent. In an instant, stormy waves appeared and the sky changed color. A mysterious mighty force descended from the void. Du Xiaofu transformed into 100 zhang tall giant. His entire body emitted a misty mist as if millions of mountains fell from the sky. This was the body of the sorcerer god. In the blink of an eye, Du Xiaofu resisted Long Tu's attack and instantly stood in front of the seal. The huge body of the sorcerer god seemed to have traveled through time and space from ancient times. Amidst the surging winds and clouds, the surging power of the sorcerer god resisted the wave-like attacks. Rumble. The surrounding void was filled with endless wind and thunder. Such a violent attack also forced Du Xiaofu's sorcerer god body to take a few steps back. Du Xiaofu intervened. He knew that his seal wouldn't be able to withstand the continuous attacks of Long Ming and the other experts. Once the seal was broken, it would affect Yelu Han and Dugu Finchin a lot. At the critical moment, the two of them might suffer from chi deviation. Kill. The huge body of the sorcerer god was pushed back, but Du Xiaofu waved his hand at the same time. A vast amount of runes surged out like a torrential flood. Rumbling sounds of wind and thunder resounded endlessly. Everywhere it passed, space exploded. Such an attack made the void seem as if there were countless gods and demons chanting. It shook one's soul. Poochie, Poochie. The sound of vomiting blood rang out. Amidst the surging power of the sorcerer god, many figures exploded. Only the experts of the major forces retreated unscathed, but they were also frightened and in a sorry state. Many of the weaker ones died. Many of their bodies were swept away by the power of the sorcerer god and exploded in midair. Such might shocked everyone present. Looking at the terrifying body of the sorcerer god, the frightening aura that filled the sky rippled out, causing the surrounding experts to stop in their tracks. They were all very fearful of it. The power of the sorcerer god of the scholarly faction, Dragon. Long Tu looked at Du Xiaofu's sorcerer god body and frowned slightly when he recognized that it was the power of the sorcerer god of the scholarly faction. He's not a member of the scholarly faction. He has many tricks up his sleeve. Long Ming sat down and informed Long Air. If this is your trump card, then you're gravely mistaken. Long Tu's voice was still ethereal, but when that ethereal voice entered one's ears, it inexplicably caused a chill to crawl up one's spine. Rumble. Suddenly, the remaining seal in the mountain stream cracked from the inside out. Runes filled the air, and a blazing and terrifying aura and a terrifying baleful aura swept out like a tornado. From the storm, a man in a dark red robe and a man covered in ancient flame armor walked out together. Their eyes were like beams of light as they looked around, causing people to tremble for no reason. These two were the awakened Dugu Finchen and Yelu Han. The two of them had already awakened, and the commotion outside couldn't escape their prying eyes. Long Tu is for you. Leave the rest to us. Dugu Finchen spoke to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu had fought against so many experts by himself, protecting Yelu Han and Dugu Finchen. Du Xiaofu's eyes blazed with a hint of excitement. All right. Du Xiaofu's sorcerer god body smiled. The surging power of the sorcerer god surged. He no longer had any scruples. Chapter 1937. Oomph. Long Air snorted, and his figure rushed out like a flash of lightning. In an instant, he transformed into a huge crimson dragon. Raging flames filled the air, and in almost an instant, he charged in front of Du Xiaofu. Boom! Du Xiaofu's sorcerer god body and Long Air's true body clashed, shaking the heavens. Spatial ripples spread out like boiling water. You're all courting death. Dugu Finchen attacked. His gaze swept over Long Ming, the heavenly serpent race, the demon vulture race, and the others. His eyes were like a volcano that was about to erupt. Kill. Yelu Han's hair fluttered in the wind, his killing intent sweeping out. The two instantly charged out. These two were not easy to deal with. As supremes, their auras could swallow mountains and rivers. One's killing intent soared to the heavens. The other was like an erupting volcano. Quickly join forces to deal with them. Long Ming shouted. He had already been severely injured by Yelu Han, and now he had been severely injured not long ago. He knew he was no match for Yelu Han and Dugu Finchen. Join forces to deal with them. Yelu Han and Dugu Finchen had already awakened. The various forces and experts knew they had no other choice. This was also the choice they had made to form an alliance. Loud shouts rang out as they attacked together. Some experts used all their secret treasures, and runes filled the sky. Some demonic beast experts transformed into their true forms. Some fire-red demonic lions roared. Some demon vultures blotted out the sky. Some heavenly serpents coiled in the void, and some giant dragons crossed the sky to suppress Yelu Han and Dugu Finchen. Kill. Rumble, Dugu Finchen, and Yelu Han activated their supreme's power. 6 divine rings appeared in the sky, and heavenly sounds rumbled. Yelu Han and Dugu Finchen were not afraid of any of these people in a one-on-one fight. They could deal with them directly. However, at this moment, these people had joined forces and came prepared. They had used secret treasures to form a powerful alliance. Among them, there were quite a few experts at the peak of the prime domain realm. There were also quite a few domain realm experts. With such a lineup, Dugu Finchen and Yelu Han did not dare to be careless. Some demonic beasts were burned to ashes by Dugu Finchen, while others were slashed into pieces by heavenly fiend Yelu Han. Blood rained down from the sky. Dugu Finchin and Yelu Han had killed some of them. This made many experts tremble with fear. Those two fellows were definitely gods of death. Rumble, Du Xiaofu and Long Tu's fierce battle caused the void to explode. The crimson dragon soared through the sky. Its dragon claws tore through the sky, and a pitch-black spatial crack appeared. The body of the sorcerer god soared into the sky. Wind and thunder rumbled, as if a demon was chanting. Symbols shone resplendently as they fought intensely. Divine light burst forth from the collision of energy. As the two collided, energy runes erupted like a volcano and swept out in all directions, causing everyone to tremble in fear. Long Air's eyes darkened as his opponent's strength continued to exceed his expectations. As a descendant of the dragons, Long Air was a pure-blooded descendant of the true dragon. But at this time, Long Air had a feeling that his opponent's mortal body was absolutely not inferior to his. The power of the sorcerer god was even stronger than the Confucian powerhouses he had encountered before. Du Xiaofu didn't dare to be careless. Long Air's strength was absolutely above Han Keifei's. But Du Xiaofu didn't fear Long Air, but because he couldn't reveal his identity at this time. He couldn't use his immortal profound body, golden rock wings, blue spirit armor, tyrant fist path, and all his other most powerful techniques. Even the most basic golden rock cultivation method was restricted. He couldn't use it to his heart's content. Rumble, not too far away, heavenly fiend Yelu Han's body was also covered in a ferocious beast armor. His infernal energy shook the heavens, and a sea of infernal energy roiled in his eyes. Yelu Han wasn't a soft-hearted person. Now that these people had joined forces, with Yelu Han's personality, how could he let them go? A boundless sea of infernal energy filled with runes shone. Yelu Han's infernal energy sea and supreme power were activated at the same time. The infernal energy turned corporeal, swallowing everything. Fire Cloud, evil god Dugu Finchin was shrouded in scarlet flames. Flames shot out from his eyes. His armor emitted an ancient aura. When he attacked, scarlet flames surged like waves, incinerating everything. This scene was very terrifying. Scarlet flames swept out in all directions, like volcanoes erupting. But at this moment, the demon vultures that blotted out the sky, the dragons and heavenly serpents, the fire-red demon lions, and several human powerhouses were not easy to deal with. These attacks were powered by treasures and supported by secret techniques. Yelu Han and Dugu Finchin were also suppressed. Dugu Finchin and Yelu Han were injured, but the fire-red demon lions, heavenly serpents, demon vultures, and other powerhouses weren't completely victorious. They were all injured. But at this moment, Dugu Finchin and Yelu Han's situation was not good. They were suppressed. Calm. Yelu Han was very calm. She didn't retreat. Her hair was scattered, filled with infernal energy, and her eyes were deep. Dugu Finchin didn't retreat. Instead, he went forward and fought crazily. Pong, pong, pong. Void energy surged like waves. Runes shone brightly, and strong winds surged. Pucci, Dugu Finchin's ancient armor was dyed red with blood. The demon vultures besieging him didn't gain any advantage. A bloody hole appeared in their wing. Puff! Yelu Han spat out a mouthful of blood, but her infernal energy flourished. Her 6 supreme wheels formed 6 divine rings that enveloped her. Her infernal energy affected space and time. Du Xiaofu's eyes narrowed as he observed everything around him. There were too many people besieging them, and they were all powerhouses. Even Dugu Finchin and Yelu Han couldn't gain any advantage. If they continued fighting, both sides would suffer even more. Boom. Sorcerer power surged. Du Xiaofu's sorcerer body was like a demon god. Every step he took caused the void to tremble and the universe to resonate. The sorcerer power contained profound mysteries. It could freeze space. Du Xiaofu attacked with his full strength. The sorcerer god's power was like boiling water, and a terrifying energy immediately spread out from all directions, bringing with it a tremendous pressure. It seemed to cause the entire space to tremble. Boom! Du Xiaofu slapped out. The sorcerer power transformed into a huge palm that stretched out from the depths of the sky. The palm formed a spatial storm. It was accompanied by a mysterious power that crushed down. A strange phenomenon appeared in the sky. Space shattered inch by inch. A pitch-black spatial vortex was torn apart and enveloped Qi Long roar. Long air roared. His dragon eyes were like fireballs that wanted to shoot out. They collided with the palm. Rumble. This collision caused the entire sky to tremble. Runes flickered in the sky, and the void exploded. The sorcerer power and scarlet flames turned into runes that filled the sky. Qila, Long Air's dragon body, was also forced back. His expression changed greatly. His opponent was too strong. Although Long Air didn't use his full strength, if he used his full strength against anyone, it would be a humiliation to him. However, at this moment, Draconic too deeply felt that the other party gave him an unfathomable and unsatisfied feeling. Chapter 1938. The terrifying wind flattened the mountains. In the void, Du Xiaofu's huge body had already disappeared without anyone noticing. Long Tu's expression changed greatly as he raised his head and looked at the void to his left. Rumble. Fiendish aura surged and scarlet flames surged. Dugu Finchin and Yelu Han were pushed back again. Their faces were pale, but their battle intent didn't decrease. Qi, a figure suddenly appeared in front of the retreating Dugu Finchin and the heavenly fiend Yelu Han. His purple hair fluttered in the wind, and the power of the sorcerer god disappeared from his body. A dazzling white light surged out like a white divine light. At the same time, dozens of dazzling formation flags condensed in his hand. Today is not the time for a long battle. Retreat. At the same time, the experts pounced again. Du Xiaofu threw out the array flags in his hand, and they turned into beams of light that soared into the sky. It's a talisman array. Be careful. The surrounding experts' expressions changed, and they immediately retreated. No one wanted to be trapped by the talisman array. The surrounding experts didn't expect that guy to be a talisman array master. With the purple-haired man's attainments in martial Dao, his attainments in talisman arrays shouldn't be low. Rumble. The sky changed color, and the universe was vast and mighty. A 9-star domain-level talisman array was suddenly set up. The terrifying talisman array covered the sky, and its aura filled the sky. There were shadows of beasts entrenched, and mysterious runes connected together. The terrifying pressure made living beings tremble. This was a defensive array, and he couldn't expose his identity. However, Du Xiaofu had no other choice. He could only rely on the talisman array to escape. Otherwise, it wouldn't be easy to escape from Long Air and the group of experts. Moreover, there was legalism, famed clans, and other major forces in the heavenly Yu Mountain. Du Xiaofu had to be thorough. Bastard, break the array. Long Air was furious. His dragon roar shook the sky, and he unleashed his dragon's might to break the array. Break the array. The demon eagle that covered the sky, the heavenly snake that entrenched the sky, the fire-red demon lion that roared deafeningly, and the other experts all made their moves. Bang, bang, bang. The talisman formation erupted with a dazzling radiance. Amidst the wind and thunder, it was like the cries of 10,000 beasts, like the galloping of a magnificent army. In the end, the talisman array was unable to withstand the attacks of Dragon 2 and the others. It began to crack and then shattered, exploding with a loud bang. Rumble. The talisman formation exploded, causing the void to rumble. The shattered talisman symbols were as brilliant as the sun as they swept out in all directions. The resplendent light energy drowned out everything, causing people's souls to tremble. The group of experts all retreated. However, the heavenly fiend Yelu Han, the mysterious purple-haired man, and the fire cloud evil god Dugufinchin had already disappeared. Chase. Long Tu retracted his body, and his figure turned into a bolt of lightning as he shot out. Chase. The group of experts chased after him. They didn't dare to not give chase. If those three were to escape today, then they would be the unlucky ones in the future. Those three would definitely not let them off. The original mountain stream had been completely destroyed, revealing a huge crater. It was a mess with many corpses on the ground. This time, many experts came from the Alliance, including the second prince of the dragons, But in the end, they couldn't do anything to those three. On the contrary, they lost many people. They probably didn't expect such a result. In the deep cave, the light was dim. Three figures appeared in the cave. They were Dugu Finchen, Yelu Han, and Du Xiaofu. They won't be able to gain any advantage in a fight. Yelu Han's complexion was deathly pale. His chest heaved up and down as he panted violently. He was somewhat unwilling to retreat in front of those people. Fighting won't do us any good. Both sides will only suffer. If the legalism people are attracted, then it will be even more troublesome. Dugu Finchen retracted the ancient flame armor on his body. His complexion was also deathly pale. He had already retreated. At this moment, he didn't have any intention to fight. He seemed to be thinking about something. In the end, he looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "Are you all right?" "I'm fine." Du Xiaofu shook his head. He looked around the cave and said, "This place should be safe for the time being. We have to recover as soon as possible." As soon as his voice faded, a ray of light shot out from between Du Xiaofu's eyebrows. It flickered and turned into an entrance that was filled with ancient qi. "We can save some time to recover in here." Du Xiaofu entered the desolate ancient space. Although he wasn't injured, he had consumed a lot of energy. Yelu Han and Dugu Finchen were also heavily injured, so they didn't have time to waste. Du Xiaofu could only use the desolate ancient space. Fortunately, Yelu Han and Dugu Finchen were unfamiliar with the desolate ancient space. They wouldn't expose their identities. Yelu Han and Dugu Finchen lowered their heads and looked at each other. They didn't hesitate and followed Du Xiaofu into the desolate ancient space. This is a treasure. It can affect time. Within the desolate ancient space, Yelu Han's expression changed. He could feel the mysterious changes in this space. His baleful aura could affect time and space, but this space seemed to be able to compress time. This was an incomparably profound intent. Recovering here can save a lot of time. It's not too late to settle some debts later, Du Xiaofu said. He stuffed a lot of spiritual herbs into his mouth and then disappeared into the depths of the desolate ancient space. It wasn't difficult for Du Xiaofu to hide in the desolate ancient space. Some debts will be settled one by one when the time comes. Dugu Finchen raised his head slightly. His eyes seemed to contain two volcanoes that could burn everything. A spirit fruit that was suffused with bright light appeared in his hand. This was the earthly flame heavenly fruit that Dugu Finchen had seized from the main region expert of the demon vulture clan. It was very beneficial to his cultivation technique. Qi. The earthly flame heavenly fruit was stuffed into his mouth. The moment the fist-sized earthly flame heavenly fruit entered his mouth, a blazing light poured down Dugu Finchen's throat like lava. Refined, Dugu Finchen sat down cross-legged. His hands were constantly forming seals. A red light flashed from his body and his exposed skin was crystal clear. Yelu Han's eyes were dark red as he looked at Dugu Finchen. "It's about time. Let's go." As Yelu Han muttered these words, a blood-colored mist appeared in his palm. There was a dark, blood-colored talisman fluctuation coming from it. "Ow-woo! Ow-woo!" Suddenly, a ghostly cry came from the mist. It was like a demon god was roaring. A terrifying evil qi swept out in an instant. "Come." Yelu Han's face darkened with a cruel smile. He had been waiting for this day, waiting for the day he could control and refine this treasure. Yelu Han sat down cross-legged. His hands were forming seals. He suddenly opened his mouth and a devouring force gushed out, swallowing the blood-red mist in his palm. Boom! In an instant, a violent evil qi swept out from Yelu Han's body. Chapter 1939. Time passed. Dragon 2 personally led the experts from various factions to attack Fire Cloud Evil God Dugu Finchen, Heavenly Fiend Yelu Han, and the mysterious man Fu Xiaodu. The news spread like a storm in Heavenly Yu Mountain, shocking everyone. Looks like Dragon 2 is going to flip out. On the mountain peak, the spiritual qi was oppressive, and mist rose. The Taoist Su Yangzi had a smile in his eyes and a calm expression. The entanglement of those people was beneficial to Taoism and had nothing to lose. Dugu Finchen and Dragon 2 were not easy to deal with. The more they fought, the fewer opponents there would be to fight for the sacred medicine. However, Su Yangzi was secretly shocked by Dugu Finshan and the other two. They were able to escape unscathed after being surrounded by so many experts. Dugu Finshan, Yelu Han, and Fu Xiaodu. These three have formed an alliance. It's terrifying. In the abyss, mist rose and spirit herbs shone. Kong Sansi of the Confucian school narrowed his eyes. That Fu Xiaodu must be related to our school of Confucianism. If we can rope in our school of Confucianism, together with Dugu Finshan and Yelu Han, our school of Confucianism will prosper. It's worth it even if we have to become enemies with the dragons and legalism. An old man from the Confucian school had a bright light in his eyes. He was thinking that those three people were too strong. If he could use this opportunity to rope in the Confucian school of Confucianism, it would be able to boost the school of Confucianism. On a cliff, Buddhist light filled the surroundings. There were many Buddhist experts resting here. They are very strong, Hung Luan said, looking into the distance. Let's look for the sacred medicine first. It should be on the main peak of Heavenly Yu Mountain. The ancient monsters there are getting stronger and stronger. Be careful. An old monk said. Whoosh, whoosh. Figures accompanied by Buddhist light leaped and left, slowly disappearing into the void. Mountains towered into the clouds, and the surroundings were lush and green. Dragon 2 is also here. A long-robed young man with a sharp face muttered with a gloomy gaze. This person was the number one of the younger generation of the Confucian school, Hui Yuan. We found traces. Dongli Qingqing isn't dead. She should be in the depths right now. She seems to be searching for something. This woman can't be left alive. Otherwise, she'll become an endless source of trouble for us. Beside Hui Yuan, the old man who was the leader of the famed clan sent a voice transmission into Hui Yuan's ears. His gaze did not leave a trace as it swept across the man in white battle robes who was seated cross-legged in the middle of 8 alluring maidservants. Chase. We can't make any more mistakes this time. Hui Yuan's eyes flashed with killing intent as a terrifying aura rippled from his body. Not far away, Lian Qingrong, who was sitting cross-legged, opened her eyes slightly. A clear light flickered, and a faint icy aura fluctuated. Brother Su, let's continue our journey. The elder spoke to Lian Qingrong in a very courteous manner. If such a supreme being were to be roped into the famous people, his position in the famous people would rise again, and he would be a powerful helper for the famous people. All right, Lian Qingrong nodded. She stood up and stretched herself. Her eyes were calm. In the misty space, time was derived here, and the void fluctuated. Somewhere, there was a ripple of golden light. The ripple of the golden talisman engravings enveloped a figure who was sitting cross-legged. A domineering and ferocious aura spread out. Screech! The rock's cry pierced through the clouds and cracked the rocks. Golden light shone, and the golden talisman engravings flickered. They arranged themselves behind Du Xiaofu and condensed into the shadow of a golden-winged rock. The shadow of the golden-winged rock wanted to spread its wings and soar into the sky. The terrifying aura of the golden-winged rock clan swept in all directions, enough to make all beasts tremble. After a while, the shadow of the golden-winged rock retracted and turned into the light of the golden talisman engravings. It swept into Du Xiaofu's body, and the golden halo slowly disappeared. Phew! Phew! When everything calmed down, Du Xiaofu exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He opened his tightly shut eyes, and a domineering golden light shot out from his clear eyes. Boom! A vigorous aura swept out from his body, shaking the void. I've gained something. Du Xiaofu retracted his mind, and a slight smile appeared in his eyes. Recently, he had not eaten a lot of precious herbs and spiritual herbs for nothing. He had benefited a lot from every fight. At this moment, Du Xiaofu felt that he had made a lot of progress in the realm of immortality. If he could not be restrained, his combat strength would definitely increase by a lot, especially in the comprehension of the sorcerer god's power and the Taoist martial arts. Recently, he had been using the Taoist martial arts and the sorcerer god's power, which had made great progress in his comprehension. It's not enough. I have to continue. Although Du Xiaofu was quite satisfied with his current progress, he was not satisfied at all. Stepping into the Saint Realm was his current goal. The Saint Realm experts were the strongest in the world. Crackle! Du Xiaofu stood up, and his body crackled and made a sonorous sound. The domineering golden light that was emitted from his body slowly faded away. Boom! Suddenly, the void in front of him trembled, and a terrifying blazing aura soared into the sky. Du Xiaofu's eyes twitched, and his figure suddenly disappeared. Walala! Scarlet flames filled the void like boiling magma, and it could burn and destroy everything. In the center, Dugu Finshin was wearing an ancient flame armor. His body was covered in scarlet flames, and his eyes were like two erupting volcanoes. Rumble, wind, and thunder trembled, and the energy of heaven and earth gathered crazily from outside the desolate ancient space. It continuously entered Dugu Finshin's body, causing his aura to skyrocket. Woo! At the same time, there was a ghostly howl not far away. A monstrous, murderous aura swept out in all directions, affecting the energy of heaven and earth in the void and turning into a violent energy tornado. In the center of the energy tornado, there was a man in a dark red robe. His eyes were like two blood moons, and he allowed the energy tornado around him to pour in. A terrifying aura spread out. Rumble! The two of them devoured the energy of heaven and earth at the same time, competing with each other. Their 6 divine halos spread out, causing the void to rumble like thunder. In the entire void, half of the blazing heat could burn everything, and the other half could devour all life. There were also divine halos in the sky, and supreme pressure spread out. Such a scene couldn't be seen by outsiders, or it would definitely shock the world. They have stepped into the true reincarnation cycle. Du Xiaofu appeared in the distance, and his eyes rippled as he looked at everything in front of him. Fire Cloud, evil god Dugu Finshin, and heavenly demon Yelu Han were 2 supreme beings, and there were not many people in the world who could be compared to them. Walala! After stepping into the true reincarnation cycle, the aura of the 2 of them continued to rise. The speed of their aura was also very fast, like a torrential flood, and it didn't have any intention of stopping. Chapter 1940. They must have consumed some rare heavenly treasure. Even Du Xiaofu was astonished by the rising aura. The fact that the 2 of them could make such a violent breakthrough at the reincarnation nirvana stage meant that they must have obtained great benefits. Du Xiaofu secretly guessed that Dugu Finshin must have consumed the earthly flame heavenly fruit, which would greatly benefit his cultivation and cultivation. As for Yelu Han, Du Xiaofu guessed that she must have some tricks up her sleeves. Otherwise, even if she had broken through to the reincarnation nirvana stage, she wouldn't have made such a violent breakthrough like Dugu Finshin. The energy turbulence in the entire desolate ancient space became more and more intense. Waves of rich energy continuously seeped in from the outside world and surged towards the 2 figures. Walala! Looking from afar, the entire purple hazy space was filled with mottled energy vortexes. It was a magnificent sight. Du Xiaofu raised his brows slightly at the terrifying surge of energy. The amount of energy required was too vast. Qi-la, with a thought, Du Xiaofu opened the desolate ancient space. Otherwise, the energy from the outside world wouldn't be able to flow in on such a large scale and support the 2 of them to continue their violent breakthrough. Of the 2 sovereigns, one could incinerate all things, while the other could devour all life. Energy surged violently, and the pressure of the world faintly caused Du Xiaofu to feel a little apprehensive. Several hours later, the auras of the 2 of them had reached a new peak. Will the peak of the reincarnation nirvana stage continue to break through to the indestructible realm? This scene made Du Xiaofu flabbergasted. Could it be that these 2 fellows would take the opportunity to break through consecutively? Once they stepped into the indestructible realm, the increase in their strength would be like the difference between heaven and earth. The terrifying auras continued to rise, but soon after, Du Xiaofu was secretly surprised. The auras of the 2 sovereigns were forcefully suppressed and stagnated. The suppression of their auras caused the energy in the space to fluctuate wildly, causing the space to shake on the verge of collapse. They didn't continue to break through. They are still suppressing themselves. Du Xiaofu's gaze couldn't help but tremble. Ordinary cultivators wouldn't be able to resist such temptation and suppress themselves in the face of such a breakthrough. However, these two fellows were not only suppressing the increase in their strength, they were also suppressing the increase in their auras. Du Xiaofu knew the purpose of doing this. If he climbed up too quickly, it would not be good for him in the future. When he was cultivating, his big brother Jin Qingchun and medical elder Du had taught him that a solid foundation was the foundation. It was precisely because of this that Du Xiaofu was even more shocked. These two fellows were still able to maintain such a stable foundation at the level of reincarnation. What kind of perseverance was this? It was no wonder that these two fellows had sealed themselves back then, just to enter the supreme tomb of the divine domain to fight for the greatest opportunity. These two guys are really scary. Du Xiaofu sighed in his heart. The fire cloud evil god Dugu Fenshin and the heavenly fiend Yelu Han were definitely not inferior to the great snow mountain's descendant Lian Qingrong and the heavenly wolf Lonely Skyhowl. Great perseverance and talent at the same time. Such people were the most terrifying. As the two of them forcefully suppressed their auras, the surging energy storm in the surroundings began to distort. Then, as if countless bombs had been thrown into it, it directly exploded in the center. Bang, 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 bang. A muffled sound exploded in the ancient, desolate space, as if it had caused the world to shake. It was deafening, and it made Du Xiaofu sway. The terrifying energy in the void was like a downpour. Then, everything gradually calmed down. The divine ring that was like a divine fire, the supreme power, the blazing flames, and the overflowing baleful aura, everything disappeared. Only in the void, the two tall men had their eyes closed. The space was silent. Du Xiaofu looked at the two men in the distance, his clear eyes rippling. Under Du Xiaofu's gaze, the scarlet-robed man slowly opened his eyes. His body was as straight as a javelin. A terrifying blazing aura with a majestic aura erupted from his body, like 100,000 volcanoes erupting at the same time. It rushed into the void and shook the entire ancient, desolate space. Boom! The scarlet-robed man stood in the void. His figure moved slightly, but the terrifying blazing aura had already caused the void to shake. He's been reborn again. It's the effect of the earthly flame, heavenly fruit. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. He could clearly feel that the aura on Dugu Finchen's body had undergone a substantial transformation. Even if the degree of transformation was not the same, it was definitely a rebirth. This kind of transformation was not only in terms of cultivation level, but also in his body. Du Xiaofu guessed that the earthly flame heavenly fruit that Dugu Finchen had consumed had taken effect, allowing Dugu Finchen's cultivation technique to improve again. Such a change was like the difference between a domain realm cultivator and a reincarnation nirvana realm cultivator. They were at the same level, but the two were completely different. Boom! Suddenly, a monstrous baleful aura swept out not far away. The scarlet-robed man raised his head slightly. When he opened his eyes, it was as if a sea of baleful aura had erupted, and a wave of baleful aura swept through the void. The baleful aura was so strong that it filled the void. This kind of baleful aura made Du Xiaofu feel a little shocked. The aura of the two terrifying men lasted for a while before it finally calmed down again. Du Xiaofu's mouth curved into a smile. These two fellows really had terrifying perseverance. They had suppressed their rising cultivation level. They were at the peak of the reincarnation nirvana realm, but they had forcefully suppressed their cultivation level to the middle stage of the reincarnation nirvana realm. However, one could clearly feel that although the two of them had suppressed their cultivation level, the aura on their bodies was undoubtedly more solid. There was a terrifying leap in the degree of substance. These two fellows had suppressed their cultivation level, but their combat strength was not necessarily suppressed. In the void, the two men stretched their bodies. Cracking sounds came from their bones as they exhaled turbid air. They were very comfortable. Dugu Finchen clenched his fists and felt everything in his body. Only he knew how great the benefits he had obtained were. A trace of fighting spirit surged out of his eyes as he said softly, "It's time to settle some debts." Yes, it's time to settle some debts. The corners of Yelu Han's mouth curved into a smile as he felt everything in his body. Baleful aura spread out from the surface of his body, causing the void to distort. At this moment, the baleful aura could shatter the void around him with just a thought. Congratulations on your breakthrough. Du Xiaofu's figure landed beside the two of them as he looked at them and said with a smile, "Thanks." Dugu Finshan looked at Du Xiaofu and said these two words. He knew that if it wasn't for this guy in front of him, he wouldn't have been able to obtain the earthly flame heavenly fruit, and he wouldn't have been able to achieve such a great breakthrough. Chapter 1941. It doesn't have much to do with me. Du Xiaofu smiled indifferently, then looked at Dugu Finshan and Yelu Han. But it seems like we're in a bit of trouble now. There are many people coming, and their cultivation bases aren't low. Although they were in the desolate ancient space, Du Xiaofu wasn't careless. He had set up a trap outside and discovered that many experts were coming. It must be Dugu Finshan and Yelu Han's breakthrough that caused a huge commotion outside. Therefore, experts were attracted. It was very likely that it was Long Air and the others, but Du Xiaofu couldn't be sure since he was in the desolate ancient space. Is it them? Come, now is the time to settle the score. Dugu Finshan said, flames dancing in his eyes. He had broken through and stepped into the true reincarnation nirvana realm. He had even reached the middle stage of reincarnation nirvana realm. If they met the demon vulture race and sky snake race again, they would definitely be able to suppress them. It's good that we don't have to look for them. Yelu Han's eyes were dark red, filled with coldness. If they met the sky snake race, demon vulture race, fire demon lion race, and the others, it would save them a lot of effort. Let's go and see who it is. Du Xiaofu also relaxed a lot. Although he couldn't be sure if it was Long Air and the others, even if they met them, Yelu Han and Dugu Finshan had both broken through and wouldn't be as miserable as before. As long as he didn't expose his identity, the three of them would be enough to fight. Chi-chi. The three figures suddenly disappeared from the desolate ancient space. When they reappeared, they were already in the cave. The desolate ancient space was retracted and filled with hazy light. Du Xiaofu stored it in his Naiwen palace between his eyebrows. At this moment, in Du Xiaofu's Naiwen palace, there was a sparkling and translucent purple 9-petaled lotus. It was as if it was formed from the world's most perfect purple spiritual jade, natural and magnificent. In the middle of the purple lotus, there was a smooth lotus platform. It was spotless and emitted a mist and an ancient aura. The Yuan spirit of the redbone horse monkey sat, cross-legged on the 9 revolutions divine Lei Lian. His eyes were closed, and complex lightning aura fluctuated around him. A woo. The beast's roar shook the forest and reverberated in all directions. Not far from the cave, the sky changed color and the void was covered. There were huge demonic beasts towering over the mountain peaks and valleys. There were ancient, vicious birds spreading their wings and covering the sky, occupying the mountain forests. They blocked the light, causing the sky to be dusky. However, dazzling energy radiance carried by various demonic beasts filled the air. A terrifying aura filled the entire area. Du Xiaofu, Dugu Finshan, and Yelu Han appeared on top of a boulder outside the cave. They looked around at the numerous demonic beasts, then lowered their heads to look at each other in surprise. It's not Long Air. It's one of those ancient demonic beasts. Also, who is that person? Looking at those demonic beasts, Dugu Finshan was flabbergasted. These demonic beasts had nothing to do with Long Tu. However, Dugu Finshan wasn't unfamiliar with them. These demonic beasts were none other than the ancient demonic beasts that they had seen on their way here. In the forest around them, there was the leader of the ancient demonic beasts that had fought against the great domain realm expert of the demon vulture clan. There was also the flood dragon that had fought against the fiery red demonic lion clan's expert and guarded the 3 lives golden lotus. At this moment, those demonic beasts had gathered together. Pairs of ferocious eyes were staring at Du Xiaofu's group. A terrifying aura filled the air. However, what surprised Dugu Finshan, Yelu Han, and Du Xiaofu the most wasn't how those demonic beasts had gathered together. Instead, it was the fact that there were many human figures standing on the backs of those ancient demonic beasts. There were more than 10 young men and women. Those were extraordinary ancient demonic beasts. However, at this moment, they had submitted to them and become their mounts. Very strong. Yelu Han's gaze swept over them. His dark red eyes slightly trembled. With his eyesight, how could he not see that those young men and women were extraordinary? They were all absolute experts. Du Xiaofu's gaze was also fixed on the head of the flood dragon that had been guarding the 3 lives golden lotus. The flood dragon looked down with its ferocious eyes. Above its head, there was a green light spreading out. A man who looked to be in his 30s and wore a green battle robe was staring at Du Xiaofu and the other 2. He said, "Hand over the precious medicine and I will spare your lives." His voice wasn't loud. It was calm and without ripples. However, when such a voice fell in the ears of Du Xiaofu's group, their divine souls couldn't help but tremble. It was as if their vitality had been sucked out. So strange. The 3 of them were startled. They immediately activated their defensive techniques, and each of them had their own means. If one's cultivation base wasn't strong enough, just this voice alone would be enough to make one suffer a great loss. Based on what? Based on what you said. Dugu Finchen said. He was originally a strong person. Originally, he had tolerated long air and the others. Now that he had made a breakthrough and was about to seek revenge, he naturally wouldn't back down when encountering such a strong man. The man in green battle robe was calm but had an absolute strength. He stood on the head of the flood dragon and pointed his finger at Dugu Finchen. He said, "With my strength, I can kill all of you." As soon as his voice fell, a green light surged out from the man's body. It was as if he was in a green sea. His aura was exuberant and powerful. He could look disdainfully at everyone. Then let's see if you're strong enough." Dugu Finchen had just made a breakthrough and was originally a battle-hungry person. How could he be convinced? As soon as his voice fell, his feet tapped on the rock and blazing Xian Qi gushed out. His figure soared into the sky. Boom! At the same time, Dugu Finchen didn't hold back his strength at the middle stage of the reincarnation nirvana realm. It caused the void to rumble and a scarlet flame appeared. It condensed on his fist and violently smashed towards the man in green battle robe on the flood dragon's head. Fire Cloud, evil god Dugu Finchen made his move. He was powerful and shocking. He didn't hold back at all. He wanted to test his strength after making a breakthrough and also wanted to directly suppress the man in green battle robe. He wanted to suppress his arrogance and strength. Rumble, the man in green battle robe, made his move. He waved his hand and a palm shot out. Resplendent green light erupted and illuminated the mountain forest. It was calm and carried a kind of aura that was absolutely not inferior to Dugu Finchen's. A fist and a palm collided, but it didn't cause too much of a muffled sound of energy. Only the sound of energy being devoured was heard in the void. That palm seemed to be able to devour everything. It actually devoured the power of Dugu Finchen's fist and then ruthlessly swept towards the former's fist. Not good, we're in trouble. Yelu Han seemed to have seen something. His expression changed and his figure instantly disappeared from the spot. Chi La La green light erupted from the palm and overflowed into the sky. A terrifying energy swept out, causing Dugu Finchen's figure to retreat in the air. He only stabilized his body after a few dozen feet. His face was pale and his eyes were filled with astonishment. Dugu Finchen was pushed back, directly pushed back. His opponent didn't even move an inch on his mount. This kind of defeat was too obvious. Rumble. A heavenly sound resounded in the void. 6 divine rings appeared in the sky, and Yelu Han's figure appeared. There were 6 divine rings that were like divine flames in the sky. That was the symbol of a nirvana sovereign. It brought with it a vast aura. There was also a murderous aura that filled the sky. The void rumbled as murderous aura surged like a tide. The nirvana sovereign's power was like a mountain flood that swept across the sky. Endless rays of light erupted in the void and intertwined with each other, boiling the void and devouring everything. Heavenly Sha Yelu Han had made his move. During this period of time, he had formed an absolute tacit understanding with Dugu Finchen and Du Xiaofu during the fight for the heavenly treasures. Chapter 1942. After being repelled in one move, Dugu Finchen and Yelu Han didn't attack again. The young man in azure battle robes had deeply shocked them both. How could Dugu Finchen and Yelu Han not understand how strong their opponent was? Everything in the heavenly Yu mountain doesn't belong to you. If you want to live, hand over everything you've taken from the heavenly Yu mountain. The young man in azure battle robes looked at Du Xiaofu and the other two. His hair was also azure as he stood calmly with the enormous flood dragon behind him hovering in the air. His imposing manner was one of absolute supremacy, capable of swallowing mountains and rivers and looking down on the world. Heavenly treasures belong to those who are fated to obtain them. Du Xiaofu's figure swept out. As soon as he finished speaking, profound energy rippled beneath his feet. His figure moved erratically in the air like a deity, turning into an afterimage as he instantly arrived in front of the young man in azure battle robes. He waved his hand and drew an arc in the air. Instantly, rays of light burst out and densely covered the sky. At this moment, the man in azure battle robes who had been calm all this time suddenly exclaimed in surprise. His eyes rippled with astonishment as his footwork suddenly changed. He actually disappeared in front of Du Xiaofu in an instant. Du Xiaofu withdrew his hand seal and raised his eyes. At the same time, his footwork also changed and his figure disappeared in the air. Swish, swish. In an instant, the two figures appeared in the air and disappeared again at lightning speed. Just like that, they intersected and flashed again. At this moment, the two figures were also drifting in the air like deities, free and unfettered. The two figures seemed to be able to merge with the space as they moved gracefully. The gazes of the dozen young men and women on the ancient demonic beast mounts around them suddenly turned astonished. Dugu Finchen and Yelu Han stood together, looking at the two intertwining silhouettes in the sky. They were also very doubtful and shocked. It wasn't difficult for Dugu Finchen and Yelu Han to see that the two people were using the same movement technique. That movement technique wasn't ordinary, it was all-encompassing and mysterious. Swish. Suddenly, the man in cyan armor appeared in the air. He stopped using his movement technique and asked, "How do you know this movement technique?" Du Xiaofu's figure appeared. He stared at the man in the cyan battle robe, his eyes fluctuating. He had already determined that the technique his opponent was using was the free steps on ripples. He said, "It was taught by a friend. How did you know it?" The man in cyan armor didn't reply. He just kept looking at Du Xiaofu. His eyes flickered with light. Whoosh! Suddenly, the man in the blue battle suit flew back to the head of the dragon mount. He waved his hand and said, "Let's go." A woo! Immediately, the surrounding ancient demonic beasts roared. Their fierce eyes glowed. Following this shocking commotion, all of them rushed into the sky and left. Du Xiaofu and the other two were the only ones left in the chaotic forest. Du Xiaofu hadn't expected something like this to happen. He didn't know why the man in the green battle robe had suddenly left. His movement technique is the same as yours. Did he leave because of that? Yelu Han landed beside Du Xiaofu. Her eyes were still filled with shock. "I don't know either." Du Xiaofu shook his head. He was also guessing in his heart. Who are these people? They shouldn't be nameless people. Dugu Finchen said. His face was slightly pale. That man in cyan battle robe was so extraordinary, but he had never heard of him before. Such a person definitely wouldn't be nameless. Could it be that there have always been people in the heavenly Yu mountain? Suddenly, Dugu Finchen said. His eyes fluctuated violently. Such words made Du Xiaofu and Yelu Han's expression change. For such a mysterious and powerful man, the young men and women around him must be extraordinary as well. It was not strange for them to think that they were originally from the heavenly Yu mountain, since they used the ancient demon beasts as their mounts. This is the heavenly devil battlefield. Are they really from the heavenly Yu mountain? After pondering, Yelu Han had some doubts. After all, this was the heavenly devil battlefield. Du Xiaofu took a deep breath and said, "There are ancient demonic beasts in the heavenly Yu mountain. Maybe there are people here." Then Dugu Finchen's face was filled with shock. His voice trembled as he said, "If there are people in the heavenly Yu mountain, wouldn't they have lived from the ancient times until now? Impossible. Any one of those ancient demonic beasts can kill us with a single finger. They don't look like they have cultivated for a long time. Therefore, it's unlikely that they are the ancient demonic beasts." Yelu Han shook her head. That makes sense. Dugu Finchen didn't refute Yelu Han's words, but he was still shocked. He said, "If that's the case, those people might be the descendants of those ancient demonic beasts." It's rumored that many ancient demonic beasts were sealed in the heavenly devil battlefield. From the ancient times until now, they have left their descendants in the heavenly U Mountain. How powerful were those ancient demonic beasts? That's why these young people are so terrifying. Very likely. Yelu Han nodded and then looked at Du Xiaofu, who was deep in thought. Anyway, we'll know when the time comes. However, I hope that we won't encounter those people again. Otherwise, it'll be really troublesome. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. Although they didn't fight directly, Du Xiaofu knew that if he fought with the man in azure battle clothes, it would be impossible for him to escape without exposing his identity. How long have we been in there? Could it be that the sacred herbs have already been taken? Yelu Han asked. They had spent a long time in there to break through. She was worried that the sacred herbs in the heavenly U Mountain had already been taken. We haven't been in there for long, but we have to inquire about the situation, Du Xiaofu said. They had spent a long time in the desolate ancient space, but it was only a little more than a day outside. However, this made Du Xiaofu secretly worried about Dongli Qingqing's situation. The three of them left and disappeared from the scene. With their cultivation and strength, it didn't take long for them to inquire about the sacred herbs. At least from the information they obtained, Du Xiaofu knew that no one had obtained the sacred herbs. Now, all the major forces and experts had entered the depths of the heavenly U Mountain. It was rumored that the sacred herbs were on the main peak of the heavenly U Mountain. Let's go and join in the fun. If there really is a sacred herb, it'll be obtained by the fated ones, Du Xiaofu said, his clear eyes deep. The three of them went into the depths of the heavenly U Mountain. Along the way, they obtained a lot of fragmented information. It was said that a group of mysterious young men and women had appeared. They rode on ancient demonic beasts and defeated many experts. However, they didn't kill them. They only took the sacred herbs that the experts obtained. That group of young men and women were too strong. They were invincible and invincible. They had already caused a huge commotion. It's them. Du Xiaofu and the other two frowned. Such a group of mysterious young men and women was definitely the group that had fought not long ago. It was possible that they were the descendants of the ancient experts in the heavenly U Mountain. Chapter 1943. Be careful of those people. The three of them furrowed their brows, especially Yelu Han and Dugu Finchen. They had personally fought with the leading man, so they knew how terrifying his strength was. He hadn't even used his full strength, but he had already defeated them. Swoosh, swoosh. The three of them continued forward, moving as fast as lightning. Du Xiaofu relied on the bloodline soul of the scarlet demonic horse monkey to find and pluck many of the treasured herbs hidden in secret places along the way. Some of the treasured herbs were guarded by ancient demonic beasts, but they could not stop the three of them. There are treasured herbs ahead. In the sky, the mountains below overlapped and the sea of trees rose and fell. Du Xiaofu's figure swooped down, instantly leaping into the mountain range. From the senses of the scarlet demonic horse monkey's primordial spirit, Du Xiaofu found an extraordinary spirit herb. Moo, on a cliff, on a mountain ridge, a green bull that was as large as a mountain peak was fighting a black-clothed young man. Its horn was sharp, and it was covered in fiery runes. Bang, bang, bang. The green bull was terrifying. Its mountain-like body could sweep in all directions. Its 4 hooves crushed boulders, causing the ground to crack and explode. The flames on its horn shot out like a cannonball, capable of blowing up a mountain. However, the black-clothed young man was surrounded by a dense nether energy that seemed to overflow from the underworld, seeping through the void. Just the aura that permeated the air was enough to make one's soul shiver and palpitate. His entire body shivered. He engaged in a fierce battle with the bull. His silhouette changed unpredictably in the void, and he moved with ease. Bang! The black-clothed young man's foot landed heavily on the back of the giant bull, sending it flying and causing it to spit out blood. Swish! In the next instant, the black-clothed young man's figure pounced toward a cliff in front of him. Mist filled the air, and a green vine climbed up the cliff. It bore a dark green spirit fruit that rippled with energy and flashed with talisman runes. Swish. Just as the black-clothed young man was about to reach the spirit fruit, a figure had already broken through the air in front of the cliff. You're courting death. The black-robed man's expression changed at the same time. He immediately discovered that figure. His eyes shot out a dark aura as he sped up. A claw directly tore through the void. You're not enough. However, at the same time, a scorching aura filled the air. A man in red appeared in front of the man in black. His fist, which was covered in flames, collided with the former's claw. Boom! The void trembled, and the chi of the underworld and the scarlet flames surged. The entire cliff shook, and huge rocks tumbled down. The two figures were also knocked back at the same time. Dang dang! The black-clothed man and the red-clothed man were forced back over a dozen steps at the same time. Their eyes lifted as they revealed a surprised expression. On the cliff, a figure had already taken the emerald spirit fruit. The void fluctuated, and a dark red figure appeared beside the red-robed man at the same time. Dugu Finchin, Yalu Han. The black-clothed man spoke as his gaze darkened. How could he not recognize Dugu Finchin and Yalu Han? In the divine domain, he had fought with Dugu Finchin. At this moment, he was already close to the middle stage of the reincarnation nirvana realm. He didn't expect Dugu Finchin to have also reached this stage. Nothing much. Heaven and earth treasures belong to those who are fated to obtain them. Dugu Finchin looked at the black-clothed man. The surprise in his eyes disappeared, and a faint smile appeared on his face. The black-clothed man in front of him was an old acquaintance. Dark Hell Emperor, Nether Demon. Du Xiaofu kept the spirit fruit in his bag. He looked at the black-robed man who was surrounded by an aura of the underworld and recognized him. He had seen him before in the tomb of the Supreme Being in the divine domain. He was a demon spirit, the Emperor of Dark Hell, Ming Yao. The Dark Hell Emperor, Nether Demon, Great Snow Mountain's successor, Lian Qingrong, Heavenly Wolf Gu Tian Shao, Heavenly Demon Yi Lui Han, Undead Spirit Demon Dong Fong Qing Mu, Fire Cloud Evil God Dugu Fen Tian, and the others were all equally famous. Mu. At this moment, the gigantic ancient barbaric bull that was kicked away by Nether Demon saw that the spirit fruit had been picked. It roared furiously, and its horn was covered in scarlet flames. It rushed out from behind Nether Demon as if it had gone berserk. Nether Demon's face was gloomy. His eyes turned cold, and strange black runes filled the air. He didn't even turn his head. He waved his arm, and a terrifying energy wave engulfed the ancient barbaric bull. Bang, bang, bang. The ancient barbaric bull's body was swept away by a tsunami, and its gigantic body was sent flying again. It crashed into a mountain, destroying a towering tree and shattering the mountain. It spat out a large mouthful of blood and didn't dare to move forward again. Dugu Finchin, Yalu Han, my patience is limited. Hand over the clear spirit fruit. Nether Demon looked at Dugu Finchin, Yalu Han, and Du Xiaofu. Strange black runes rippled around his body, and his eyes looked as if they could see through space. His deep black eyes seemed to contain the netherworld realm, and it made people's hair stand on end and their souls scatter. Dugu Finchin was about to speak. How could he hand over the treasure that was already in his hands? He wasn't afraid of Nether Demon alone, not to mention there were three of them. This wasn't the first time the three of them had done something like this. Just as Dugu Finchin was about to speak, Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered. He stepped forward, looked at Nether Demon, and said with a faint smile, "If you want the clear spirit fruit, it's very simple. Ally with us. You're welcome to join us." Ally. Hearing this, Dugu Finchin and Yalu Han were stunned. But soon after, a smile appeared on their faces. If they could get Nether Demon to join them, their strength would increase greatly. Ha 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 ha. Nether Demon laughed wildly. His voice spread across the void, and the Nether Chi fluctuated. Ally? What qualifications do you have to ally with me? You're just humans. Nether Demon stopped laughing and looked at Du Xiaofu's group with disdain. He was a demon spirit and didn't put humans in his eyes. He didn't even associate with Dugu Finchin and Yalu Han. Demon spirits had their own pride. Du Xiaofu's face gradually darkened. He glanced sideways and said to Dugu Finchin and Yalu Han, "This guy should have a lot of treasures on him. Are you guys interested?" Dugu Finchen and Yelu Han were stunned. This Fu Xiaodu was really strong. He clearly wanted to snatch the nether demon away. Then, the corners of their mouths rose into a smile that wasn't a smile. I think it's not bad. Dugu Finchen looked at Nether Demon, and there was a malicious smile in his eyes. Back then, when he fought Nether Demon in the Divine Domain, he didn't gain any advantage. Now that there was such an opportunity and Nether Demon didn't put him in his eyes, Dugu Finchen naturally wouldn't miss it. Chapter 1944. Yelu Han didn't say anything, but his murderous eyes were already fixed on the Nether Demon. Seeing Du Xiaofu and the other two's gazes, the Nether Demon was stunned, but then a cold smile appeared on his face. He looked straight at Du Xiaofu and the other two and said, "What? Do you want to come at me together?" "Humph." Dugu Finchen snorted. His hair was disheveled and dyed red by the blazing aura. It was as if flames were burning. His eyes contained a volcano as he directly attacked the Nether Demon. Rumble. The scarlet flames in the void surged violently like waves. Dugu Finchen attacked again, wanting to fight the Nether Demon again. The ancient flame armor on his body had already covered him. Dugu Finchen attacked with all his strength. Scarlet flames surged and spread. It was as if he was in a dazzling sun. The blazing light was released along with the mysterious runes, causing an inexplicable power to appear in the void, imprisoning the void. A fist violently blasted towards the Nether Demon. The power of the fist was like a falling meteor. The light rushed into the void. Come. The Nether Demon wasn't afraid. He had already fought with Dugu Finchen more than once or twice. In the past few years, he had great opportunities and his cultivation had improved a lot. However, he didn't expect Dugu Finchen to improve so much. He was a demon and couldn't take advantage of Dugu Finchen. He was already a little unhappy in his heart. At this moment, he naturally used all his strength to suppress Dugu Finchen. Boom! The Nether Demon's nether chi surged like a messenger of hell. He stepped forward, as if he had opened the gate to the underworld. The world trembled, and the universe resonated. The fist collided, shaking the void. Scarlet flames and nether chi swept out in all directions. Chi-la-la, two figures were knocked back from the void. The void behind them surged. There were torch-like eyes. This time, the two seemed to be on par again. Boom! The void trembled as a baleful aura overflowed into the sky. It was vast and surging like a mountain torrent. Endless rays of light erupted in the void and devoured everything. The heavenly Sha Yelu Han attacked. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the Nether Demon, who hadn't stabilized himself yet. His murderous chi condensed into a saber that affected space and time as it slashed towards the Nether Demon. The Nether Demon's eyes darkened. He stomped his foot on the air and stabilized his momentum. A majestic aura gushed out from his body. The Nether Demon's aura surged and turned into a beam of light that collided with Yelu Han. Crack, crack. The void was cracking apart as baleful energy overflowed into the heavens. The energy of the underworld swept out in all directions, and symbols filled the sky. The ground below cracked apart, and a sea of trees rose and fell. There were even pitch-black spatial cracks hanging in all directions. This scene was very terrifying. Yelu Han's figure was knocked back, and the Nether Demon was also knocked back. His feet missed the air, and he was in a slightly sorry state before he was able to stabilize himself. However, the corners of Nether Demon's mouth curled into a disdainful arc. He looked at Dugu Finchen, Yelu Han, and Du Xiaofu and sneered, "You want to attack together? But it seems like all of you aren't enough." Chi-la, as Nether Demon's voice fell, there was a spatial fluctuation in the void. Someone is coming. Du Xiaofu and the other two raised their brows at the same time. The three of them immediately looked at the void in front of them. Chi-la, in the fluctuating void, a young man in green clothes suddenly walked out from Nether Demon's side. He was surrounded by green light, and his charm was peerless. His eyes were vast. With the appearance of this man, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the surrounding void became abundant. An ancient aura filled the air, and the messy ground below suddenly became green and full of vitality. Undead spirit demon Dongfang Qingmu. When this person appeared, Yelu Han, Dugu Finchen, and Du Xiaofu's eyes trembled. Du Xiaofu also recognized this person. Back in the divine domain, this undead spirit demon Dongfang Qingmu was together with the Dark Hell Emperor, Nether Demon. Nether Demon was stalling for time. He was waiting for Dongfang Qingmu. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. No wonder Nether Demon was acting strangely and wasn't afraid when facing the three of them. It turned out that he was deliberately stalling for time. He was waiting for Dongfang Qingmu. They had also come to the Heavenly Yu Mountain to form an alliance. When the undead spirit demon appeared, his eyes were vast as he looked at Du Xiaofu and the others from afar. A dense vitality spread out from his body. There was no need for Nether Demon to say anything, and they already knew what was going on. I said, "You guys are still not enough." Nether Demon sneered as he looked at Dugu Finchen and the other two. With Dongfang Qingmu here, the three of them wouldn't be able to do anything to them. Yelu Han and Dugu Finchen's eyes darkened. Dongfang Qingmu's sudden appearance and his aura didn't seem to be any weaker than Nether Demons. These two guys were the most difficult demon spirits to deal with. Although the three of them weren't afraid of these two, they should be able to take advantage of them. After all, they knew that no one was weaker than Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon. However, it would be difficult for the three of them to rob Nether Demon. "Another one, huh?" Du Xiaofu said softly. After a moment of astonishment, he wasn't worried but happy. He said to Yelu Han and Dugu Finchen excitedly, "I'll leave Dongfang Qingmu to you guys. I'll deal with Nether Demon alone." Looking at Du Xiaofu's excited expression, Dugu Finchen and Yelu Han couldn't help but frown. The undead spirit demon, Dongfang Qingmu, had arrived. That guy seemed to have a double blessing. No problem. But Dugu Finchen and Yelu Han nodded. It wasn't a problem for the two of them to deal with Dongfang Qingmu. Neither of them were afraid of Dongfang Qingmu. If the two of them joined hands, they could definitely suppress Dongfang Qingmu. However, Yelu Han and Dugu Finchen were puzzled. Could it be that Fu Xiaofu could really rob Nether Demon alone? Nether Demon's face was gloomy. He had heard some legends about the strange purple-haired man who robbed the three of them. He didn't seem to be weaker than Yelu Han and Dugu Finchen. However, this guy was so arrogant that he didn't put him in his eyes. "You're very arrogant." The Nether Demon stared directly at Du Xiaofu. His eyes began to glow with a deep, black color. Black runes surged within them. Just a glance was enough to restrain one's soul. Just a glance was enough to injure one's primordial spirit. Hand over the Qinkuan pouch. Otherwise, you'll regret it. Du Xiaofu looked at Nether Demon and pointed at him. His long blue hair draped over his shoulders. He was calm and domineering. Dongfang Qingmu raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard Du Xiaofu's words and attitude. He couldn't help but glance at Du Xiaofu a few more times. "You've succeeded in making me remember you." The Nether Demon looked at Du Xiaofu. His deep, black eyes flickered with light. His nether chi was awe-inspiring, and a chill surged through the void. "Remember how I beat you up?" As Du Xiaofu's voice faded, his foot tapped on the ground. His figure drifted like a god, leaving a trail of afterimages as he pounced on Nether Demon. Accompanied by a vast, invisible energy that froze the void, a handprint instantly appeared in front of Nether Demon. Chapter 1945. Translator. Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio, human, you're too arrogant. A dark energy soared into the sky. The Nether Demon shook his arm, and a terrifying dark energy erupted from his body. His hair danced wildly, and his eyes seemed to open the gates of hell. Bang! The Nether Demon blocked Du Xiaofu's palm print with a muffled sound. Energy swept out in all directions, and the dark energy surged wildly, shattering a large area of space. Du Xiaofu's expression was inwardly stern. The Nether Demon was too powerful. This terrifying dark energy seemed to surge out from hell, and it could corrode the body and primordial spirit. However, Du Xiaofu's immortal Xin body and true Peng realm body could withstand it. His primordial spirit with several types of spiritual lightning in his Niwen palace could also remain unharmed. The Nether Demon's expression was cold, but his heart was pounding. He felt that his palm was a little numb, And what shocked him even more was that the mysterious human in front of him didn't seem to be affected by his dark energy at all. Rumble. At the same time, in the void not far away, Dugu Finshan and Yelu Han had joined forces to fight the undead spirit demon, Dongfang Qingmu. Blazing flames, monstrous baleful aura, and resplendent azure light intertwined with each other in an instant, causing the void to become chaotic. Dongfang Qingmu's eyes were azure, and his body was dazzling. He was like a god descending to the world, and he wasn't afraid of Yelu Han and Dugu Finshan. Dugu Finshan and Yelu Han didn't say a word and directly attacked. The two of them joined forces, and they didn't have any carelessness. They weren't afraid of the undead spirit demon, Dongfang Qingmu, but they knew that he was an absolutely terrifying existence. Woo-woo, the dark energy surged, and the nether demon once again pounced at Du Xiaofu. The dark light around his body hummed, making people tremble. Sorcerer God's power. Du Xiaofu wasn't afraid. Sorcerer God's power surged out, causing the void to tremble. It was as if a god or demon was chanting, and the dark energy also became resplendent, as if it had come from ancient times. Runes filled the sky, and blazing light flooded the void. Confucian school? The nether demon was surprised. That was the sorcerer god's power of the Confucian school. Boom! Du Xiaofu made his move. Resplendent runes bloomed, and the power of the sorcerer god seemed to have traversed the past and present, filling the sky. The dazzling light shook heaven and earth, as if a new world was opening. Oomph! The nether demon's eyes sank as he formed a seal with his hand. Deep and pitch-black talisman markings covered the sky as his figure instantly vanished. At the same time, a vast river stretched across the void. The river water was strange like ink, and the chi of the underworld seemed to overflow from the nine hells. Just the aura that emanated from this terrifying and strange nether river was enough to make one's soul tremble and soul tremble. This was the Black Nether Hell River, the true body of the nether demon. The origin of the Black Underworld Prison River was mysterious. It was rumored that countless ancient almighty experts had been buried here. In the end, the Black Underworld Prison River gave birth to intelligence and created the Black Underworld Emperor, Dark Demon, a supreme existence in the demon spirit world. Chi La, the vast river water was suffused with strange black talisman markings as it rippled. A huge body formed by the black river water and talisman markings walked out of the river water. Its eyes seemed to contain the Nine Hells world as it fought with the body of the sorcerer god formed by Du Xiaofu. Rumble. In such a great battle, the void was already covered by dark clouds, and there were abyss-like cracks in the sky. The surging power of the sorcerer god, the terrifying chi of the underworld, and the phantoms of gods and demons chanted in the sky. Huge waves of the nether river surged to the sky. The two fought fiercely, and the wind and thunder did not stop. It's also reincarnation nirvana. It's not much different from Yelu Han and Dugu Finshan. Du Xiaofu's sorcerer god phantom was in the sky, and he understood the cultivation level of the nether demon. Although he only used the power of the sorcerer god and Taoist martial arts, his undying and indestructible level was real. With the help of his primordial spirit, it was enough to suppress the nether demon. The more the nether demon fought, the more shocked he became. This human seemed to be unfathomable, and he could not see his true strength. His strongest nether chi was enough to affect any living being. It could corrode the physical body and primordial spirit. It was impossible to resist, but the human in front of him was not affected at all. Rumble. Huge waves appeared in the Black Nether Hell River. 6 divine rings appeared in the sky. These divine rings were dazzling, and there was a black mist color. The heavenly music was endless, and the wind and clouds surged. Fight! The nether demon shouted, and used the supreme power. He did not expect that the human in front of him could force him to use his full strength. The sorcerer god phantom was in the sky, and it was as if the ancient sorcerer god had descended. Du Xiaofu was not afraid of the supreme power. He stretched out his huge palm, causing the space in front of him to distort. As the wind and clouds surged, a huge handprint stretched out from the depths of the sky, covering the sky and crushing the nether demon. Rumble. The heavenly music exploded, and a vast and terrifying energy suddenly came from all directions. A huge pressure suddenly spread out, causing the space in the world to tremble. It was shocking. It was the undead spirit demon Dongfang Qingmu, Yelu Han, and Dugu Fenshin. The three of them had all used their supreme power. At this moment, a huge tree covered the sky. Its branches were luxuriant, and it stood 100 feet tall in the void. Every green leaf was covered in mysterious runes, and 6 divine rings shrouded it, shaking the void. Around the huge tree, a strange phenomenon appeared in the sky, forming a spatial storm. This spatial storm was full of vitality, as if it was the source of life. But once one got close, one's vitality would be devoured, causing one to wither. This was the undead tree, the main body of the undead spirit demon. Like its name, it was rumored that the undead tree was a strange existence in the world, and it was as famous as the undead grass. But everyone knew that the undead tree was much more terrifying than the undead grass. Moreover, this was the undead tree that had turned into a supreme nirvana. Swish, swish, the countless green leaves of the undead tree glowed, turning into sharp green swords that pierced through the void, sweeping towards Yelu Han and Dugu Fenshin. However, Dongfang Qingmu was terrifying, and he was the main body of the undead tree. But Heavenly Fiend Yelu Han and Fire Cloud Evil God Dugu Fenshin weren't easy to deal with either. Although they couldn't do anything to Dongfang Qingmu, they weren't afraid of him. At this moment, Yelu Han and Dugu Fenshin joined forces. A scarlet flame river covered the sky, and a baleful aura sea covered the void, suppressing Dongfang Qingmu. 5 terrifying figures were fiercely fighting. Heavenly music resounded, supreme power surged, and strange phenomena appeared in the sky. Bang, 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 go. Above the black nether prison river, Du Xiaofu found an opportunity. The sorcerer god's phantom roared, and a hand seal fell. The terrifying sorcerer god's energy was accompanied by a mysterious power, and it pressed down. It was as if the sun, moon, and stars were rotating, and all life in the world were being annihilated. Unable to use his full strength, Du Xiaofu could only use the ancient sorcerer god's power to the extreme. Wherever the hand seal passed, the space shattered inch by inch, and the pitch-black spatial vortex was torn apart. In an instant, it fell on the huge body formed by the Nether River. Chapter 1946. On the Undying Tree, Dongfang Qingmu's human figure appeared, connected with the mysterious runes on the tree. 6 divine rings lit up the ancient space. In the Black Nether Hell River, the water of the Nether Demon's Black Nether Hell River also condensed into a huge body. Rumble. The entire desolate ancient space rumbled, causing the space to tremble as if it was going to collapse. Suddenly, Dongfang Qingmu and the Nether Demon's eyes narrowed. A huge sorcerer god's body appeared in the sky. You think you can trap us like this? You're overestimating yourself. This time, it was Dongfang Qingmu who spoke. His voice rippled, and the huge, undying tree also shook, shining brightly. I didn't plan to trap you. Du Xiaofu looked at Dongfang Qingmu and the Nether Demon. Ancient sorcerer god's power rippled around him. He paused for a moment, smiled, and said to the two of them, "Now you have 2 choices. First, you two form an alliance with me in the heavenly devil battlefield." Ha 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 ha. The Nether Demon laughed, and the Black Nether Hell River surged. His laughter shook the ancient space. Human, you think too highly of yourself. You don't have the right to form an alliance with us. Sigh. Du Xiaofu looked at the Nether Demon with regret. He sighed and said, "Then I can only feel sorry for you because the second choice is to kill you. You should have gained a lot in your Chinkuan pouches. Your bodies, the Undying Tree, and the Black Nether Hell River Soul Seed are all great treasures." Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Dongfang Qingmu and the Nether Demon's expressions turned ugly. He didn't plan to trap them at all. He wanted to kill them. You'll pay for your arrogance. Dongfang Qingmu was full of vitality, and the Undying Tree shone brightly. Its terrifying aura was even more powerful. Dongfang Qingmu was furious. His temper was definitely not as gentle as it looked. He was the Undying Tree. Even a saint would have a hard time killing him. But this guy was so arrogant that he didn't even take him seriously. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. The nether demon roared angrily. Nether energy seemed to seep out from the nine hells, causing one's soul to feel cold and palpitate. Do you want to attack? I'm warning you. If you make me attack again, I'll have no choice but to kill you, Du Xiaofu said to Nether Demon and Dongfang Qingmu earnestly. Facing such an arrogant fellow, the Nether Demon and Dongfang Qingmu looked at each other from afar. Their gazes met, and they reached a consensus. Rumble. The supreme power surged, and the black runes in the vast black underworld prison river rippled. The Nether Demon's eyes contained the power of the 9 underworlds, and it exploded towards Du Xiaofu's sorcerer god body. It was as if the gates of the 9 underworlds had been opened, making people's hair stand on end and their souls scatter. The Undying Wood erupted, green light rushing into the heavens. The branches and leaves seemed to have come alive, like green divine chains, the supreme being power surging. It was clearly a giant tree, but at this moment, it was majestic, like a god descending to the world. The Nether Demon and Dongfang Qingmu attacked at the same time, not daring to be careless. The mysterious guy in front of them was indeed unfathomable and strange. At this moment, they were pulled into this strange space, so they had no choice but to attack together. Come. At this moment, light exploded around Du Xiaofu's huge sorcerer god body, turning into an exceptionally bright divine ring. It exploded with brilliant light, like the sun rising from the east. Divine fire filled the sky, and a vast heavenly might spread out. The heavenly might was not like this. The supreme heavenly might from the Nether Demon and Dongfang Qingmu was powerful and vast, but it made the 6 divine rings of Dongfang Qingmu and the Nether Demon dim and extinguish. In an instant, the huge sorcerer god body was filled with divine light, and it was enveloped by a kind of divine light. It was extremely dazzling, and it gave people the feeling of the beginning of the world and the birth of all things. The surging aura was like a waterfall, surging and boiling, making people want to bow down and worship it. Break. The word break spread out like the sound of the heavens. Du Xiaofu attacked. The huge sorcerer god body swept out with his palm, and terrifying runes swept out. Then, as Dongfang Qingmu and the Nether Demon looked deathly still, their 6 divine rings shattered. The water of the black nether prison river was blasted away, and the divine chain-like branches and leaves of the undying tree were broken. Crackle. The undying wood and the black underworld prison river were exploding. The Nether Demon's shadow and Dongfang Qingmu's shadow were dumbfounded. Deep in their hearts, they were trembling. Only they knew that it was a terrifying power that they could not resist. It was above them and could crush them directly. That terrifying aura made them feel a sense of déjà vu. Du Xiaofu did not stop. The sorcerer god body stretched out his hand, and his 5 fingers curled slightly. The surroundings froze, and in an instant, a 3-legged cauldron appeared in his palm. The moment the 3-legged cauldron appeared, the surrounding space trembled, and purple electric arcs exploded. In the dazzling electric arcs, the 3-legged cauldron circled, and in an instant, it became hundreds of feet long. It circled above the void, and there was a rumbling sound of thunder and lightning. In an instant, purple electric arcs surged, and the frightening destructive power of thunder and lightning exploded in an instant. Divine Thunder Cauldron. This is the Divine Thunder Cauldron. The pupils of the Nether Demon's shattered body suddenly shrank and trembled. Back at the exit of the Divine Plane, he had seen Moksha and the Demon King Du Xiaofu use the Divine Thunder Cauldron at the same time. At this moment, the 3-legged purple lightning cauldron was definitely the Divine Thunder Cauldron. Moksha, no. You are the Demon King Du Xiaofu. Shiver. He felt that the terrifying aura was not like Moksha, but the Demon King Du Xiaofu. The unfathomable guy in front of him was most likely the Demon King Du Xiaofu, who had not been heard of recently. This is your choice. Just as Du Xiaofu's voice fell, the purple thunder profound cauldron rumbled, and the purple thunderclouds that occupied the sky churned. Arcs of lightning converged into purple thunderbolts that suddenly burst out, and the dazzling purple light of electric arcs poured down. Rumble. In an instant, the dense purple thunderbolts fell from the sky, and with an unparalleled destructive power, they fell on the undying tree and the black nether prison river. The earth-shattering purple thunderbolts bombarded, and the sharp sound of the explosion was continuous. This kind of destructive thunderbolts made people's hair stand on end. The black nether prison river exploded one after another, filled with purple electric arcs. The black runes were shattered, and the nether energy was destroyed. The undying tree exploded, and its branches and leaves were destroyed. It was scorched by the thunderbolts. This was the purple-gold profound lightning from the purple thunder cauldron. As demon spirits, the nether demon and Dongfang Qingmu could not resist it at all, not to mention that Du Xiaofu was using the purple thunder cauldron with his current cultivation. Chapter 1947. Let's mind our own business. If you continue to be so overbearing, both of us will suffer great losses. Dongfang Qingmu opened his mouth. The entire tree was wrapped in purple lightning arcs, as if it had been dyed purple gold. However, at this moment, the green leaves and green runes were being destroyed. He and the nether demon were both demon spirits. If they self-destructed in the end, even if the other party was the demon king Du Xiaofu, both of them would suffer great losses. No one under the Saint Realm would be able to survive their self-destruction. You can try to self-destruct. I have the divine thunder cauldron. Do you think your self-destruction can affect me? Du Xiaofu replied like this. He was not moved at all. He controlled the bolts of purple gold lightning to bombard the black nether hell river and the undying tree. Human, even if you have the divine thunder cauldron, you can't do anything to us. As long as our soul seeds don't die, you can't do anything. The nether demon roared. The vast black nether hell river was covered in lightning arcs, turning into a purple gold ocean. It was extremely shocking. Destroying your soul seeds shouldn't be difficult. Du Xiaofu's lips curled into a cold smile. With a thought, a silver gold light shot out from between his eyebrows. In an instant, the figure of a red-bone horse-ape rushed out, releasing a violent destructive pressure. Silver gold lightning swept out, spreading across the void. Roar! The red-bone horse-ape roared. Its eyes seemed to contain two golden suns. Silver gold light filled the air and poured out in all directions. Red-bone horse-ape primordial spirit, you are the demon king Du Xiaofu. At this moment, Dongfang Qingmu was 100% sure that the mysterious man holding the divine thunder cauldron in front of him could not be anyone else other than the demon king Du Xiaofu. Spiritual thunder, demon king Du Xiaofu. The nether demon's eyes trembled. He felt the aura of several kinds of spiritual thunder and was sure of the former's identity. It was the terrifying demon king Du Xiaofu. Rumble, the red-bone horse-ape stood in the void, and the terrifying silver-gold electric arcs poured down, making Dongfang Qingmu and the nether demon soul seed fearful. Their soul seeds were very difficult to be destroyed, but if they were to encounter Du Xiaofu, then things would be different. This demon king could even fuse with the soul seed of spiritual thunder. Although your soul seeds are not spiritual lightning, I feel that if I fuse with your soul seeds, my primordial spirit will be strengthened significantly. The red-bone horse monkey spoke. Du Xiaofu's voice could be heard. His voice fluctuated along with the electric arcs, akin to the rumbling of thunder, exuding an imposing might. Du Xiaofu, what do you want? We've always minded our own business, Dongfang Qingmu said. The undying wood was trying its best to resist the purple gold profound bomb, but it was not very effective. This is your own choice. Moreover, now that you know my identity, do you think I'll let you go? Du Xiaofu said. The nether demon and Dongfang Qingmu's hearts trembled. They did not know that they had provoked the demon king, Du Xiaofu, this terrifying guy. At this moment, this demon king had deliberately concealed his identity, and he must be plotting something. Now that he was exposed in front of them, they were afraid that he would not leave them alive. The demon king, Du Xiaofu, was already infamous. He would not have any fear of killing them. Even if they self-destructed now, it would not have much effect on the demon king. Rumble, thunder rumbled, and the purple gold lightning wreaked havoc, destroying everything. It was impossible to resist. Du Xiaofu, I agree to form an alliance in the heavenly devil battlefield. The nether demon's shout came from the black nether hell river, which was surrounded by the purple-gold lightning. I'm also willing to form an alliance in the heavenly devil battlefield, Dongfang Qingmu said. Between being killed and forming an alliance, this was a matter that anyone would choose to settle. I can kill you all, so why should I form an alliance with you? I've exposed my identity, so it's safer to kill you all. Your soul seeds can strengthen me a lot. If you can leave a little of your original bodies, it'll be good enough, Du Xiaofu said. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, the Nether Demon and Dongfang Qingmu's hearts were filled with despair. Indeed, the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, could kill them directly. Why should they form an alliance with them? The other party was now eyeing their original bodies and soul seeds. Dongfang Qingmu, Nether Demon, this is your last chance. Join the Barren Country and become the Barren Country's protector envoy. You will guard the borders of the Barren Country, and all the beasts of the Imperial Beast Hall will be under me, just like Heavenly Wolf Gu Tianxiao. You will be under me for 100 years. As Du Xiaofu spoke, lightning flashed in his eyes. Since his identity had been exposed, this was his bottom line. It was not as simple as forming an alliance in the heavenly devil battlefield. His aura became fierce, and even killing intent surged out. His cold voice continued, saying, "This is my bottom line, and it's not a disgrace to your identities. If you can't do it, then I don't mind killing you." Dongfang Qingmu and the Nether Demon felt the killing intent on Du Xiaofu's body, and they definitely knew Du Xiaofu's temper. They had already seen how cruel this Demon King was. However, no matter how conflicted Dongfang Qingmu and the Nether Demon were, joining the Barren Country for 100 years was undoubtedly the same as submitting to the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. However, both of them knew that the Demon King had already decided to kill them. If they did not submit today, then only death awaited them. They had already lost. For 100 years, the Barren Country's protector envoy will be under one person. Is what you said true? The Nether Demon asked, feeling conflicted. The protector envoy of the Imperial Beast Hall, the protector envoy of the Barren Country's borders, will not be a disgrace to your identities. After 100 years, you will be free to come and go. Yes, Du Xiaofu said seriously. He looked at the heavenly wolf Lonely Sky Howl and said, "I respect your identities and will give you the choice. Actually, if I want to kill you, you definitely won't have the chance to self-destruct. If you don't believe me, you can try." Yes, Du Xiaofu was telling the truth. With the purple lightning profound cauldron and the origin spirit fused with 5 types of spiritual lightning, Dongfang Qingmu and the Nether Demon's chances of self-destructing were not high. Originally, Du Xiaofu wanted to form an alliance with the Nether Demon and Dongfang Qingmu not only in the heavenly devil battlefield, but now that things had come to this point, he might as well pull them into the Barren Country. The undead spirit demon, Dongfang Qingmu, and the Dark Hell Emperor, Nether Demon, were supreme beings who had achieved nirvana. They were not inferior to the heavenly wolf Lonely Sky Howl and the descendant of the Great Snow Mountain, Lian Qingrong. If he pulled them into the Barren Country, they would definitely be of great help and could influence the world. Even if they could only stay for 100 years, they would benefit immensely. Although the Undead Wood and the Dark Hell River were their original bodies, their soul seeds should also be able to strengthen their origin spirits. However, with Dongfang Qingmu and the Nether Demon's talents, their futures were limitless. Du Xiaofu did not want to kill them until the last moment. It was undoubtedly the best choice to subdue them. As soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu put away the purple lightning profound cauldron. The huge sorcerer god's body had also disappeared. The purple hair fluttering in the wind was transformed by the disguised divine technique. His face was calm and his eyes were deep. The redbone horse monkey's origin spirit was beside him. Lightning flashed in his eyes and an invisible pressure filled the void. Chapter 1948. The purple gold lightning on the undying tree had dissipated. Although most of it was still full of vitality, the topmost layer was charred black and smoking. Crackle. Vitality fluctuated and green light filled the air. The charred layer of the undying tree miraculously recovered. Some of the charred branches and leaves recovered, while others fell off. Then the whole body shone with green light again. The branches and leaves were lush, and finally Dongfang Qingmu's human form was formed. However, Dongfang Qingmu's face was pale, and his hair was messy. He was in a sorry state, and his body rippled with a faintly discernible aura of thunder and lightning. The black underworld Hell River rippled, and the black runes shattered. The dark energy was dispelled, and in the rippling light, Nether Demon walked out of the water. The black underworld Hell River disappeared and gathered in his body. His hair was disheveled, and he was in a sorry state. The two stood in the ancient, desolate space, looking at Du Xiaofu and his crimson horse monkey primordial spirit. They lowered their heads and looked at each other, their eyes twitching. After a while, Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon clenched their teeth and knelt on one knee. "Greetings, Rock Emperor. Greetings." They knew the Demon King Du Xiaofu's title, and they knew they had no other choice. The Demon King in front of them definitely had the power to kill them. The Dark Hell Emperor, Nether Demon, and the Undead Spirit Demon, Dongfang Qingmu, two supreme nirvanas, had chosen to submit for 100 years. Moreover, the other party had taken care of their dignity and was at least the barren country's guardian venerable envoys. The barren country had many supreme nirvanas, and they ruled the heavenly beast hall and guarded the barren country's borders. It was not too degrading. The two of them had submitted to him for 100 years, and in the end, they had completely collapsed. Du Xiaofu said that he was not afraid of their self-destruction at all. In fact, he could even make them self-destruct without giving them a chance to do so. "Rise, rise." Du Xiaofu smiled as he retracted the killing intent in his eyes. The Yuan Shun of the Redbone Horse Monkey transformed into a silver-gold electric arc and returned to his Naiwan palace. The smile on his face made him look like a completely different person. "Yeluhan and Dugu Fenshin still don't know my identity. Pay attention and tell them that we have formed an alliance," Du Xiaofu said to Dongfang Qingmu and Ming Yao. He had used his full strength to bring them into the desolate ancient space because he didn't want Yeluhan and Dugu Fenshin to know his true identity. Outside the desolate ancient space, Yeluhan and Dugu Fenshin were guarding the desolate ancient space. Their faces were solemn as they wondered if that guy could handle Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon at the same time. Chi. Not long after, space fluctuated and misty light rippled. As the ancient and boundless energy fluctuated, three figures flashed out under the vigilant gazes of Dugu Fenshin and Yeluhan. It was Du Xiaofu, Dongfang Qingmu, and Nether Demon. Yeluhan and Dugu Fenshin could not help but become solemn when they saw Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon. Their auras immediately surged. "There's no need to be nervous. We've already come to an agreement. Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon have decided to form an alliance with us," Du Xiaofu hurriedly signaled to the two of them. "Alliance." Dugu Fenshin and Yeluhan looked at each other when they heard that. They immediately looked at Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon in surprise. Earlier, when the battle had reached such a state, those two fellows had not agreed to the alliance. However, what exactly did Fu Xiaodu say to those two fellows in the Time Treasure to make them actually agree to the alliance? Looking at Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon's miserable appearances and sensing their weak auras, Dugu Fenshin and Yeluhan's eyes flickered. It seemed that the three of them had definitely fought in the desolate ancient space. From the looks of it, Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon must have suffered a great loss. Otherwise, the two of them would not have agreed to the alliance so easily. Nether Demon glanced at Dugu Fenshin and Yeluhan with disdain and a sneer. It seemed that the two of them really didn't know the identity of the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Nether Demon's heart ached for Yeluhan. It was rumored that Yeluhan had been tricked by the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, in the divine domain. As a result, the dragons, legalism, and school of vertical and horizontal had chased after Yeluhan. And now, this guy actually didn't know that the one who was with him every day was the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Dongfang Qingmu didn't say anything, but his eyes dimmed a little. "Let's go." Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. The delay was getting longer and longer. The major forces and experts had already walked towards the main peak of the Heavenly Yu Mountain. Dongli Qingqing's whereabouts were still unknown. Du Xiaofu couldn't help but worry. Swoosh swoosh, Nether Demon and Dongfang Qingmu followed behind Du Xiaofu and left. Yeluhan and Dugu Fenshin looked at each other. The two troublesome fellows, Nether Demon and Dongfang Qingmu, had actually agreed to form an alliance. Yelu Han and Dugu Finchen's expressions relaxed a little, with Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon joining the alliance. The five of them now had the power to contend against Du Shaojing of legalism. With the five of them in an alliance, they didn't need to fear any force under the Saint Realm. The sea of trees was boundless, and the mountains were boundless. Along the way, Du Xiaofu had inquired about some news. The group of mysterious young people had attacked everywhere, and no one was a match for them. The heavenly treasures obtained by the major forces in the heavenly Yu Mountain had also been taken away. But only once did the group of mysterious young men and women encounter legalism's Du Shaojing. It was said that the leader of the group was defeated and left, never to appear again. Now, many experts and major forces had arrived at the main peak of the heavenly Yu Mountain. It was rumored that the sacred medicine was on the main peak, but it was blocked by a seal. No one could enter, so the experts were obstructed. Go to the main peak. Du Xiaofu's expression turned serious. There was still no news about Dongli Qingqing. One day later, in the boundless heavenly Yu mountain range, mist rose from the mountain range in the distance. It was misty and hazy, emitting a dazzling light from afar. Rich energy fluctuations filled the void. On the mountains, there were figures flickering. Some people's eyes were shining as they looked at the incomparably huge mountain in front of them. It was like a towering giant towering between heaven and earth. There was a torrent of energy there, and mysterious green light and talisman runes intertwined. The mist filled the air as if chaos was surging. We can't break in. The seal is too strong. On the mountain, an old man's eyes widened as he watched nervously. The sacred medicine must be on the main peak. There's a torrent of energy there. Those mysterious young men and women have entered. There must be even more powerful experts there. Many figures flickered on the mountain peaks as they discussed in secret. Their eyes were red. In front of them was the main peak of the heavenly Yu mountain, where the sacred medicine was. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. 5 figures crossed the mountain peaks and landed in the void in front of them. The formless aura made the figures on the mountain peaks tremble. These 5 figures were 5 men. They were Du Xiaofu, Dugu Finchen, Yelu Han, Dongfang Qingmu, and Nether Demon. Du Xiaofu's gaze fell on the front. His eyes narrowed as if he was sizing something up. His expression turned serious. But at this moment, there was a sudden commotion on the surrounding mountain peaks. Many people's eyes began to shine. Fire Cloud Evil God Dugu Finchen, Heavenly Demon Yelu Han, Undead Spirit Demon Dongfang Qingmu, Dark Hell Emperor Nether Demon. A trembling voice rang out. The appearance of these 5 men made people's eyes tremble. They seemed to be walking together. Du Xiaofu was sizing up the huge mountain in front of him, which seemed to be in the midst of chaos. Suddenly, he felt a lot of cold gazes directed at him from behind. He raised his eyebrows and turned to look in the direction of those cold gazes. Dragons, famous clan, legalism. With a glance, Du Xiaofu saw the owners of those cold gazes. They were from the Dragons, famous clan, legalism, Demon Vulture clan, Fire Demon Lion clan, and so on. They were all old rivals. Are they all here? Seeing these old rivals, Du Xiaofu's eyes rippled. The leading old man of the famous clan, Hui Yuan, Long Heir of the Dragons, Long Ming, the Demon Vulture clan's Master Realm expert, and the Fire Demon Lion clan's Master Realm expert were all behind him. The eyes of the legalism's Han Ke also flashed with a cold glint. Du Xiaofu's gaze swept across these old rivals. Then, it landed on a beautiful woman beside Han Quebec. Her green dress fluttered along with her black hair. Her exquisite face revealed an otherworldly appearance. Her ethereal eyes stared at the main peak of the heavenly Yu mountain towering in the mist in front of her. They were like stars twinkling in the sky. She stood quietly, graceful and exquisite. She was as otherworldly as a fairy. She was otherworldly. Xiaojing, Du Xiaofu called out in his heart. His younger sister, Xiaojing, was right in front of him. Not far away, the disciples of the Huang country, the people of the golden-winged Great Peng clan, as well as the Taoist, Confucian, Buddhist, and other familiar figures appeared in front of him. Huff, taking a deep breath, Du Xiaofu's expression didn't change much. It seemed that there were many old rivals, but he didn't care too much about it. Yelu Han, Dugu Finchen, Nether Demon, Dongfang Qingmu, and the others had long since the cold gazes behind them. They all turned around and looked at each other from afar. At this moment, seeing Du Xiaofu, Nether Demon, and the others' gazes, Long Ming, Han Ke, and the others' expressions changed. I didn't expect it to be those guys again. Why are Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon with Yelu Han and the others? Han Ke stared at Yelu Han, Du Xiaofu, and the others, a cold light flashing in his eyes. How could he forget that the purple-haired man had destroyed his meridian spirit? If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't control Du Xiaojing, he would have let Du Xiaojing kill those two people to take revenge. Han Ke secretly gritted his teeth and couldn't help but glance at the beautiful woman beside him. This girl's growth was too terrifying. She was so fast that he couldn't control her anymore. It's those brats again. These guys have a lot of enemies. If there's a chance, I can deal with them directly. Ming Huiyuan looked at Du Xiaofu and Yelu Han. His hands slightly clenched into fists under his long sleeves, killing intent surfacing on his face. Chapter 1949. Yuan. Sensing the fluctuation of energy from Huiyuan's body, the leading elder of the famous family transmitted his voice to Huiyuan. He looked at Huiyuan without leaving a trace and said, Yelu Han, Fu Xiaodu, and Dugu Finshan have many enemies. There's also the undead spirit demon Dongfang Qingmu and the dark hell emperor Ming Yao. I don't know if the two of them are also with them. It's best that we don't interfere. Let's focus on business. I know. However, it seems that only the three of them and legalism have treasures. If there's a chance, we can act according to the situation. Huiyuan replied. Although Fu Xiaodu had helped the famous family when he was questioned by Du Xiaoqing in the desolate nation, Huiyuan didn't feel any gratitude towards him. Yelu Han and Fu Xiaodu both had enemies such as legalism, dragons, school of vertical and horizontal, so the famous family didn't try to rope them in. Recently, Fu Xiaodu, Yelu Han, and Dugu Finshan had joined forces. They were famous and had caused a storm in the heavenly Yu Mountain. Their reputation had long surpassed Huiyuan's. He was the number one of the younger generation of the famous family. He was also a nirvana supremacy. However, he was being drowned out. He couldn't help but feel a little unhappy. Try not to get involved. It's best to wait and reap the benefits. The elder of the famous family transmitted his voice. Looking at the current atmosphere, it was possible that a great battle was about to happen. Although heavenly demon Yelu Han and the mysterious purple-haired man Fu Xiaodu had spoken for the famous family, they had offended legalism, school of vertical and horizontal, and dragons. If the famous family tried to rope them in, they would undoubtedly become enemies with legalism, school of vertical and horizontal, and dragons. At this moment, these people were offending more and more people. It was better for the famous family to stay away from this whirlpool. This was the main peak of the heavenly Yu Mountain. If these people could cause both sides to suffer, the famous family would undoubtedly benefit the most. Lian Qingrong stood at the peak of the famous clan's formation. 8 maidservants stood behind her. Her white battle robes were spotless, and her clear eyes were looking at the purple-haired man among the 5 figures in the void in front of her. No one noticed that there was a ripple in her eyes that flashed past without leaving a trace. At the same time, Du Xiaofu's eyes twitched as he stood in the sky. After which, he once again looked at the enormous main peak of the heavenly Yu Mountain behind him. That place was shrouded in primal chaos, and one's mind couldn't pry into it. The inside was hazy and impossible to pry into. This time, you won't be able to escape. Suddenly, a loud shout rang out. The voice was ethereal yet powerful. The sound waves contained the roar of a dragon, and the might of a dragon suffused the air and shook the void. On the surrounding mountain peaks, the creatures with weaker cultivation bases were also trembling inwardly when they heard this voice, their souls rippling. Rumble. The space trembled like the rumbling of wind and thunder. Along with the shout that contained the might of a dragon, no less than 300 figures flew out from the surrounding mountains. Waves of vast auras swept through the sky. Boom! Waves of powerful auras swept out and covered the surroundings. At the front of this group of powerhouses, a tall and sturdy man about 30 years old walked out. His deep and fair face had a sharp curve to it. He was long hair. Back then, He had attacked Yelu Han's group, but in the end, he had been swaggered off. This was a thorn in his heart that he couldn't let go. Now that he saw them again, how could he let them go? It's Long Air. Is he going to attack? As Long Air walked out, the expressions of the Taoist, Confucian, Buddhist, desolate country, and other major forces on the surrounding mountains changed slightly. The news of Long Air's failure to besiege Yelu Han's group had long spread. Demon Vulture Clan, Fire Red Demon Lion Clan, Heavenly Snake Clan. Looking at the figures around him, Yelu Han's eyes twitched slightly. How could he not be familiar with these people? They were all from the Fire Red Demon Lion Clan that he had fought fiercely with not long ago. Humph! With a deep snort, Dugu Finchen's eyes turned red. Back then, he had been suppressed and had retreated, but now, he had broken through again. He wanted to settle the score with these fellows. They had come at the right time. Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon glanced at Long Air and the others, but their expressions didn't change much. Looking at Long Air and the others, Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon knew the reason. They had already heard of the reason. It was the trouble caused by the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, Yelu Han, and Dugu Finchen. Although Long Air and the others had many experts, including several main domain realm cultivators and many domain realm cultivators, Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon didn't take them to heart. Not to mention that the 5 of them were enough to deal with them. Once the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, revealed his identity, it would be enough to kill them all. Not to mention, Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon had already seen many sovereigns of the desolate country on a mountain peak not far away. There were also the terrifying experts of the Golden Rock clan. Once the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, revealed his identity, Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon knew what would happen to Long Air and the others. Therefore, looking at Long Air and the experts of the Fire Demon Lion and Demon Vulture clan, Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon could only sympathize with them. Yelu Han, you're dead this time, Long Ming said. He had been severely injured by Yelu Han, and his dragon horn had been broken. How could he let such a grudge go? You think you can? Yelu Han sneered. Back then, he had been surrounded and suppressed, but now, it was different. Hearing this, Long Ming looked at the 2 people beside Yelu Han, the undead spirit demon Dongfang Qingmu and the Dark Hell Emperor, Nether Demon. How could he not recognize them? They were absolutely terrifying. Now that Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon were here, it was really difficult to deal with them. Dongfang Qingmu, Nether Demon, long time no see. Long Ming's expression was gloomy, and these words came out of Long Air's mouth. It's been a long time, 3,000 years, Dongfang Qingmu said, his eyes calm. Nether Demon looked at Long Air and didn't say anything, but there was a fluctuation in his eyes. 3,000 years ago, he had seen Long Air. This is a grudge between us dragons and them. It has nothing to do with you. Long Air looked at Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon. If Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon were really with Yelu Han's group, it would be really difficult to deal with them. Your grudge has nothing to do with me, but if you want to fight, I'm willing to accompany you. But you, Long Air, aren't enough. Let Long Yi do it. Nether Demon said, his eyes under his hood turning dark red. Han Ke of the School of Legalism, Hui Yu En of the School of Famed Scholars, and the other members of the School of Famed Scholars all paled. The undead spirit demon Dongfang Qingmu and the Dark Hell Emperor, Nether Demon, were really with Yelu Han's 3rd brother, the Sovereign. With 5 sovereigns like this, there was probably no force present that could fight against them alone. This was the main peak of the Heavenly Yu Mountain. With 5 sovereigns like this together, they were definitely a threat to everyone. It's been 3,000 years, but you seem to have only reached the Nirvana reincarnation realm. It seems that you have been sealed for 3,000 years, but you didn't gain anything in the Sovereign Tomb. Don't make a mistake again. Long Air's voice was ethereal, but now there was a hint of coldness in it, a warning. 3,000 years ago, Long Air's cultivation was indeed inferior to Nether Demon and Dongfang Qingmu. At that time, Long Yi and Dongfang Qingmu were equally famous, and he was only following behind his big brother, Long Yi. But now, he had already surpassed Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon. Are you threatening me? Dongfang Qingmu said. Green light shot out from his eyes, filled with vitality. His calm voice was filled with absolute coldness. The seemingly gentle Dongfang Qingmu had a bad temper, even worse than Nether Demon and Yellow Hans. Dongfang Qingmu wasn't afraid of long air. Boom! Nether Demon didn't say anything else, and the dark energy surging out of his body showed his stance. Yellow Han and Dugu Finchen's aura also surged, shaking the void. A great battle was about to break out. This is a personal grudge, and it has nothing to do with you two. Let me deal with it myself. Du Xiaofu finally turned his head from the misty main peak. His expression was still calm as he said to Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon, "You two are still injured, so I don't need you to intervene." Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon looked at Long Air and the others, then looked at Du Xiaofu. His calm expression had a hint of coldness. They smiled coldly at Long Air and the others, then retreated without hesitation. Yellow Han and Dugu Finchen were surprised that Du Xiaofu asked Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon to retreat, but they felt that Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon's injuries were too heavy, so Du Xiaofu didn't need them to intervene. After all, the three of them were enough to deal with them. That guy is really arrogant. Many people looked at each other when they saw that Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon had really retreated to the side. Facing Long Air and the other experts, Fu Xiaodu didn't need Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon's help. How arrogant was he? Even Long Air was surprised, but then his eyes turned cold. This was a humiliation to him, and it was obvious that Fu Xiaodu didn't put him in his eyes. You won't be able to escape today. Long Air looked at Du Xiaofu with a gloomy face. That day, he carelessly allowed Fu Xiaodu to set up a talisman array and retreat, which made him a laughingstock in the heavenly Yu Mountain. Today, he was going to wash away all of this. You're not enough. Du Xiaofu replied to Long Air. His eyes swept over the surrounding forces such as the Fiery Demon Lion Clan, the Demon Vulture Clan, the Heavenly Snake Clan, and the other forces, as well as the Wild Bear Domain Master and the other experts. The number of people who had besieged them had increased by a lot. It seemed that these people had roped in many forces to join them. Is it just you guys? But I'm afraid you won't be able to get back these heavenly treasures with just you guys. Du Xiaofu said indifferently. Suddenly, a large amount of multicolored light shot up into the sky from his hand. Energy gushed out, and rays of light shot up into the sky. Amidst the multicolored light, a strange golden lotus bloomed. It was the size of a baby, and 3 golden lotuses bloomed with their backs against each other. The talisman patterns on the petals fluctuated in an intricate manner like meridians. Golden light flowed, releasing a dazzling brilliance that illuminated the void. A gorgeous flower appeared, filled with majestic energy. Waves of energy flowed through it, like the morning sun. A dark green spirit fruit appeared. Energy fluctuated. Mist filled the air, and talisman patterns flickered. Many heavenly treasures appeared together. Energy gathered and surged, and multicolored light illuminated the sky. Chapter 1950. Swoosh swoosh. Heavens, that's the triple golden lotus. Clear spirit fruit. That must be the legendary clear spirit fruit. The endless sky sacred flower. Rumor has it that it can protect one's soul and help one become a saint. The entire place was in an uproar. Countless gazes were burning with passion. Even the experts from the Taoist, Confucian, Buddhist, and Desolate Nation were trembling. The triple golden lotus, clear spirit fruit, endless sky sacred flower, and so on. Any one of them was a treasure among treasures. Moreover, there were so many treasures. This place was a treasure trove. After all, the treasures they had obtained in the heavenly Yu Mountain had already been taken by the mysterious group of young men and women. Now that they saw so many treasures, it was easy to imagine the fervor in their hearts. However, the expressions of the Fire Red Lion Clan's master, the Raging Bear Region Lord, and the others were extremely gloomy. Their eyes were about to spit fire. The triple golden lotus, endless sky sacred flower, and so on had been taken by Yellow Han's group right under their noses. Heavens! The surrounding space trembled as bright lights shot into the sky. No one present wouldn't be tempted by such a huge pile of treasures. So many treasures. Hui Yuan's eyes trembled, and a burning passion surged from within. Hui Yuan hadn't heard that the mysterious group of young men and women had robbed the trio. He guessed that they had many treasures on them. After all, the three of them had robbed quite a lot from others. However, Hui Yuan hadn't expected that the three of them would have so many treasures on them. This was too shocking. That guy is really arrogant. On a mountain peak, an old man with white eyebrows and a beard looked at the pair of heavenly treasures that were shrouded in multicolored light. His eyes were suffused with some golden light, and he looked domineering and disdainful. Second elder, third elder, the enemies of the dragons, should we lend a hand when the time comes? A young man in a wide yellow robe with gold trimmings spoke. He stood quietly on the mountain peak, looking extraordinarily handsome and charming. His eyes intentionally glanced at Du Xiaofu, giving off an invisible and domineering aura. He was Jialo Jueyu. Strictly speaking, he was the leader of the golden-winged great rocks. He could use this opportunity to attack the dragons. Let's wait and see. That little guy seems to be very confident. Jialo Zhiheng spoke, his gaze landing on Long Air's body. The dragons and the golden-winged rocks were mortal enemies, but they didn't make a move at this moment. After all, they were of the older generation. Although the golden-winged rocks and the dragons were mortal enemies, it wasn't appropriate for the elders to deal with the younger generation. This was the tacit understanding between the golden-winged rocks and the dragons. If any of the clans broke this tacit understanding, it would definitely be the day when the two clans would fight to the death. That guy seems to be between the barren country and the legalism dragons. Let's wait and see. But he is really arrogant. Jialo Guanyu said. He looked ahead and sized it up with interest. Does Long Air want to make a move now? In the barren country's lineup, the Sacred Array Child Jin Qingchun, Sirius Gu Tianxiao, Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger Du, Yi Piaoling, and the others were also looking forward with interest. With the character of the barren country's people, it was naturally impossible for them not to be tempted by the huge pile of treasures. However, at this moment, no one in the barren country made a move. With the dragons around, they were happy to watch the show. Treasures of heaven and earth belong to those who are fated to get them. You guys are just not fated to get them. With a huge pile of treasures of heaven and earth in front of him, any one of them was enough to cause a stir in the outside world. However, Du Xiaofu was not affected at all. He was not afraid of causing a fight between the four clans. Floating in the void, his eyes slowly swept across the surrounding mountain peaks. His voice was mixed with Xin Qi and resounded in all directions. He said, "The treasures of heaven and earth are in my hands. If there's anything else you want, why don't you come with the dragons? If you have the ability, take them away." Arrogant, too arrogant. Who is that Fu Xiaodou? How can he be so arrogant? He is looking down on all the major clans. He is too arrogant. When Du Xiaofu's words were heard, the surroundings were in an uproar. Some people who were not afraid of making a big deal out of it did not hide their voices. They deliberately resounded in the void and landed in the midst of the major clans' lineup. The expressions of many experts from the Taoist, Barren Country, Confucian, Buddhist, and other major clans changed. That mysterious man was not an ordinary kind of arrogant. In the legalism lineup, Du Xiaojing's gaze had unknowingly retracted from the misty main peak of the heavenly Yu mountain and quietly landed on Du Xiaofu's body. His starry eyes were so calm that there were no ripples. He naturally had an otherworldly temperament. Han Ju's eyes twitched. His gaze was fixed on the dazzling triple golden lotus in front of Du Xiaofu. His pupils contracted. His meridian spirit had been destroyed. If he could obtain the triple golden lotus, he would have a chance to reunite it. The triple golden lotus did not exist in the legalism, and there were no traces of it in the outside world. It had long become a legend. Kid, you were too arrogant. You snatched the treasures of all living beings. Do you look down on all living beings? You should pay the price. Han Ju's gaze darkened as he walked out with a cold smile. He had no intention of letting Fu Xiaofu go. This was the perfect opportunity. As Han Ju walked out, many legalism experts followed behind him. Only a few stayed by Du Xiaojing's side. Ripples finally appeared in Du Xiaojing's eyes, but he did not say anything. He continued to stand quietly on the mountain peak, as if none of this had anything to do with him. His ink-black hair flowed freely, and his aura was still as extraordinary and arrogant as ever. Legalism has also joined the fray. Hanju is clearly trying to get his hands on those heavenly treasures. Not many people were surprised by the addition of legalism. It was all within their expectations. Hanju had been severely injured by the mysterious Fu Xiaofu. He already had a deep grudge against him. Legalism and Du Xiaojing were present at this moment. It would be strange if legalism did not want a share of the pie. He is indeed too arrogant. Just as these thoughts flashed through the minds of the surrounding living beings, another soul-shaking voice suddenly rang out. A famous expert. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw someone walk out from the famous expert's lineup. His figure was rather arrogant and extraordinary. It was a young man in a long robe. His face was well-defined, and the corners of his mouth curled into a smile that did not allow for provocation. He was Hui Yuan. On his well-defined face, his blazing eyes retracted from the pair of heavenly treasures in front of Du Xiaofu with a cold smile. Chapter 1951. The Nether Demon and Dongfang Qingmu didn't interfere. Long Air, the Demon Vulture race, the Heavenly Snake race, the Fire Demon Lion race, and many other experts were present. There was also the legalism, especially the legalism's Du Xiaojing. Yeluhan and the other two would definitely not be a match for him. Even with Dongfang Qingmu and the Nether Demon, they wouldn't be able to gain any advantage. Hui Yuan didn't want to miss such an opportunity. He couldn't allow the dragons and legalism to divide that pile of heavenly treasures. As for Yeluhan and the others, they originally didn't have any grudges. In fact, Yeluhan and Fu Xiaojing had helped the famed families before. To Hui Yuan, this didn't mean anything. These people's reputations were too great and needed to be suppressed. Otherwise, how could the current leader of the famed families stand out? If there was anything to blame, it was the three people's bad luck. They had attracted so much trouble. When Hui Yuan walked out, the old man leading the famed families raised his eyebrows. However, he immediately followed beside Hui Yuan, tacitly agreeing with the famed family's choice. After all, he was also tempted by that pile of heavenly treasures. He couldn't let legalism and dragons divide it up. Lien Qingrong stood on the mountain peak, her eyes flickering. She waved the sleeves of her white battle robe and had the 8 maidservants stay on the mountain peak. She then followed behind Hui Yuan and the old man leading the famed families. Even the famed families want to interfere? Yeluhan and Fu Xiaojing seem to have helped the famed families before. That pile of heavenly treasures is too shocking. Who could resist the temptation? If you want to blame someone, you can only blame that guy for being too arrogant. Legalism and famed families joining in at the same time shocked the surrounding people. They couldn't help but feel pity for Yeluhan and the other two. There were also many people who thought that the mysterious purple-haired man was too arrogant. Looks like there's going to be a good show to watch. In the Desolate Countries lineup, Du Xiaoqing raised her eyebrows. Her pitch-black eyes rippled as if she was deep in thought. Du Xiaoqing only wanted to kill the dragons, legalism, and famed families. If she saw them alone, she would have already attacked. As for Yeluhan and Fu Xiaojing, Du Xiaojing, she didn't have a good impression. Could it be Zhan Qingchun, the child of the sacred matrix, was secretly sizing up the mysterious purple-haired man? He seemed to have noticed something. In the famed families want the legalism families? Their famed legalism and the famed families members. Their famed families also want the legalism? Famous famed families also want the famed families family? Hui Yuan looked at Du Xiaofu. For some reason, when he saw Du Xiaofu's calm gaze, he felt somewhat uneasy. Hui Yuan secretly took a deep breath and suppressed the uneasiness in his heart. His expression darkened slightly as he stared at Du Xiaofu and shouted, "Brat, you're too arrogant. You're robbing everyone. As one of the 9 great clans, we can't tolerate your arrogance." Du Xiaofu looked at the 300 figures that had gathered in front of him. If these 300 people were above Kyushu, any one of them would be an overlord. Ha 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 ha. Du Xiaofu's gaze swept past the dragons, legalism, and the famous clans. Suddenly, he raised his head and laughed out loud. This kind of laughter was accompanied by profound energy, shaking the void like the rumbling of thunder. Du Xiaofu's laughter also caused the surrounding living beings to be extremely surprised. At this moment, facing the alliance of the dragons, legalism, famous clans, demon vulture race, heavenly serpent race, and many other forces, that mysterious purple-haired man, Fu Xiaodu, actually had the mood to laugh. Could it be that he was scared silly? Yelu Han and Dugu Finchin glanced at each other. Even though the two of them had broken through once more and weren't afraid of Long Air's group, with the addition of the legalism school and the famous school, especially Du Xiaojing, who was glaring at them from the side, they couldn't help but feel uncertain. This fellow can still laugh. Could it be that he doesn't think this matter is big enough? Yelu Han and Dugu Finchin helplessly rolled their eyes at Du Xiaofu. This fellow didn't let Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon interfere. Now, he even took out a pile of heavenly treasures and invited the legalism and the famous clans to join in. This was simply smashing his own foot with a rock. Did he think that Du Xiaofu wasn't strong enough? Chi lao la, but when the laughter stopped, Du Xiaofu waved his sleeve and the heavenly treasures in front of him directly disappeared into his Qinkuan bag. His gaze was fixed on the several hundred figures of the dragons, legalism, famous clans, demon vulture race, heavenly serpent race, and other forces. His purple hair fluttered and a cold intent climbed up his face. His cold voice resounded in the void. Even the famous clans are joining in? Fine. I'll deal with all of you as soon as possible. Brat, you are too arrogant. You are bound to suffer. The leader of the famous clans looked at Du Xiaofu with a heavy expression and said indifferently, "The famous clans just want to get their hands on the heavenly treasures. Why do you have to make it sound so dignified?" Du Xiaofu sneered and looked directly at the leader of the famous clans. "However, this is also good. In any case, I have a debt to settle with your famous clans. Settling it together will save some time. In the future, I will kill every one of your famous clans on sight. Brat, I'm afraid your strength is not enough. Just based on your words, you deserve to die." The leader of the famous clans took a step forward and gloomily glowered at Du Xiaofu. "Brother Jian, that brat is too arrogant. Why don't we attack together? At that time, everyone who sees the heavenly treasures will have a share. What do you think?" Hui Yuan looked sideways at Lien Qingrong and asked. "All right." Lien Qingrong nodded. "Haha," Hui Yuan laughed. It seemed that he had roped in the Great Snow Mountain's descendant, Lien Qingrong. This person was enough to deal with Yelu Han and Dugu Finchin. Laughing loudly, Hui Yuan looked directly at Du Xiaofu. His aura slowly gushed out and killing intent surged in his eyes. He said coldly, "Brat, those who don't put the famous clans in their eyes die." The famous clans have roped in the Great Snow Mountain's descendant, Lien Qingrong. This time, Yelu Han's group is in even more trouble. Looking at the movement in front, the surrounding experts and major forces understood that after the famous clans had roped in the descendant of the Great Snow Mountain, Lien Qingrong, their strength had undoubtedly increased greatly. They were once again a great threat to Fu Xiao and Yelu Han. Du Xiaofu shook his head in an unconcerned manner as he looked at Hui Yuan and the old man, whose faces were currently filled with a cold, murderous intent. He slowly lifted his head and looked at Hui Yuan and the old man. An arrogant expression flashed across his eyes as he parted his mouth and laughed. "Honestly speaking, with just this little strength of the both of you, I can kill both of you with just a lift of my hand. The both of you are far from qualified to kill me." Du Xiaofu's words caused the surrounding people to be stunned. Although everyone knew that the mysterious purple-haired man was extraordinary, and Han Ke had ended up like this, at this moment, Hui Yuan and the leader of the famous clans were together. It was absolutely not a trivial matter. Who would dare to underestimate them? Even Long Air absolutely wouldn't dare to be careless. But at this moment, in the face of so many opponents, none of whom were weak, the mysterious purple-haired man still didn't put Hui Yuan and the leader of the famous clans in his eyes. What kind of arrogance was this? He was simply seeking his own death. Even Yelu Han and Dugu Finchin could only sigh bitterly. In their impression, Fu Xiao had always been bold and mysterious, but he absolutely knew his limits. They didn't know why he was provoking them today. Originally, the three of them were able to deal with the siege of Long Air and the others. But now, with the addition of legalism, the descendant of the Great Snow Mountain, Lin Qingrong, and Du Xiaojing covetously watching from the side. They had definitely poked a hornet's nest. Only Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon, who were not far away, were calm at this moment. They didn't worry about Yelu Han and the others at all. Dongfang Qingmu and Nether Demon were very clear about Fu Xiao's true identity. Once they made a move, the ones who would suffer would be the legalism, the famous clans, and the dragons. It was a pity that the legalism and the famous clans were still in the dark. When the time came, it would be too late to cry. This guy is so arrogant. He has the ancient sorcerer's power of my scholarly faction. Could it really be him? In the scholarly faction, Kong Sansi's gaze was curiously fixed on the mysterious purple-haired man, and he fell into deep thought. Kong Sansi had always been suspicious of a person. He had a feeling that although he had never seen this purple-haired man before, he felt more and more like déjà vu, but he didn't dare to be sure. Ha 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 ha. As the surrounding people's thoughts churned, Hui Yuan and the old man leading the famous clans froze for a moment before laughing in anger. This was especially true for the old man. After so many years, this was the first time he had been looked down upon by a junior. He was even said to be unqualified. Good, you're really arrogant. Then let this old man see just how much capital you have. The old man threw his head back and laughed heartily. Everyone could hear the anger and killing intent in his laughter. This expert of the famous clans had an illustrious reputation and an extremely high status in the famous clans. But at this moment, he was thoroughly enraged. Long Er, Han Ju, Long Ming, and the others looked at the old man, but they were in no hurry to make a move. They knew how powerful Fu Xiaodu was. Now that a famous clans had been inexplicably pushed to the front, they were naturally happy to watch the situation. As the person in question, Du Xiaofu calmly stared at the famous clan elder's furious laughter with a calm gaze as he stared at the famous clan elder's loud laughter. A faint trace of coldness flashed within his eyes. Although Du Xiaofu did not deliberately pull in a famous clans, there was a certain element of it. Before this, Du Xiaofu had no intention of provoking a famous clans. He already had enough enemies. However, a famous clans were hunting down Dongli Qingqing. This was the bottom line that Du Xiaofu could not tolerate. Although he was currently surrounded by many people, Du Xiaofu was not worried. Putting aside the fact that once he revealed his true strength, he would be able to resolve this crisis. Moreover, there were also experts from the Desolate Country and the Golden-Winged Great Rocks. Chapter 1952. In addition, Du Xiaofu was someone who would kill any dragons and legalism he saw. At this moment, with Han Ke and Long Er here, Du Xiaofu didn't have the chance to kill them because of various scruples. But now, it seemed that the time had come. Being stared at by Du Xiaofu, the old man's face was extremely gloomy. He stretched out his hand from his long sleeve, slender but slightly withered. Strands of dazzling light lingered on his fingertips, and a dent appeared in the space before the light. What, you want to fight? I guarantee that you'll regret it. Seeing that the old man was about to attack, Du Xiaofu smiled faintly, and the corners of his mouth curled into an unfathomable and mysterious smile. Are you threatening me? You're courting death. The old man shouted coldly, and two dazzling beams of light shot out from his eyes like lightning. He suddenly took a step forward, and his hair stood on end. His body glowed, and his aura surged out, distorting space and shaking heaven and earth. Boom! In an instant, the old man couldn't take it anymore. He jumped into the air, and with a shake of his arm, his 5 fingers clenched into a fist that distorted space, and punched towards Du Xiaofu's chest with a terrifying distortion of space. This punch was filled with killing intent, and it shook the surroundings. Rumbling sounds erupted from the fist, and it was deafening and dazzling with runes. Without a doubt, this old man was a main region expert, one of the strongest experts below the Saint Realm. Moreover, this old man was a main region expert of the famous family. His strength was undoubtedly extremely terrifying, but facing such a punch, Du Xiaofu wasn't afraid. He didn't retreat, and instead, he moved forward and punched out. Boom! There was a loud explosion as the 2 fists collided. Runes surged, and space cracked. Then, as everyone's eyes trembled, a shocking scene appeared. The latter didn't move at all, and he maintained the posture of advancing instead of retreating. On the other hand, the body of the old man leading the house of famed family was directly sent flying in the air as blood spurted out from his mouth. No. While all eyes were on the confrontation between Du Xiaofu and the famed family leader, an extremely terrified shriek suddenly resounded through the air. Such a scream and fear would make anyone who heard it tremble violently. Everyone looked over when they heard the voice, only to see the number one person of the younger generation, Hui Yun, standing in front of the famous clan's lineup. His eyes had shrunk, and his eyeballs were about to pop out of their sockets. His lips were parted, and the terrified scream was emitted from his mouth. At that moment, there was a tip of a saber at the center of Hui Yun's brows. It shone with a cold light, and the person holding the saber hilt was the successor of Great Snow Mountain, Lin Qingrong. That white-robed man was too handsome. His skin was like jade, and his eyes were black and white. The slight smile on his face could move all the women in the world. At this moment, with Lin Qingrong as the center, dazzling white ice runes filled the air. Ice and frost that filled the sky suddenly fell from the void. Everywhere was pure white, as if glaciers were falling and fluctuating the void. He slowly pulled out the saber in his hand. It was a terrifying weapon. It looked like a saber, but it wasn't a saber, and its power was monstrous. As soon as it appeared, the clouds and the void moved, and white runes shot into the sky. It was as if it could freeze the world, and freeze this part of the void. This was Lin Qingrong's weapon, the heavenly ice blade that had fought against Du Xiaofu's purple-gold heavenly tower. Qi. The heavenly ice blade was pulled out from the back of Hui Yun's head. In Lin Qingrong's hand, endless ice power was released. The space around the blade was frozen, and pitch-black spatial cracks faintly spread out. Why are you? Hui Yun looked to the side with difficulty at Lin Qingrong behind him. His pupils shrunk, and he was shocked. Death crept into the depths of his shattered primordial spirit. Starting from the center of his brows, a layer of ice covered his body in an instant. Crack, crack. Soon after, under everyone's dumbstruck gazes, his body exploded in the void and turned into shattered ice. His soul was extinguished, and he couldn't be more dead. Because you don't have the qualifications, Lin Qingrong answered Hui Yun, whose soul had already been extinguished. Killing him was as calm as cutting down a blade of grass. There was an indescribable aura of martial prowess and transcendence. All of this happened too quickly. It was so fast that even the experts and disciples of the famous clan in the surroundings were still in a daze, and Hui Yun had already been killed. The dignified number one of the younger generation of the famous clan, Hui Yun, who had undergone nirvana, didn't even have the chance to make a move. His soul was extinguished just like that. Lin Qingrong. A sorrowful and angry roar reverberated. That was the angry roar of the old man who had just stabilized his retreat. He didn't care about the wound on his fist and the bleeding. His eyes were bloodshot, and his hair was standing on end. He looked on helplessly as Lin Qingrong directly killed the defenseless Hui Yun. He was powerless to do anything. The person who had died was the future of the famous clan. His heart was bleeding and his blood was burning from such a loss. During this period of time, the members of the famous clan had treated Lin Qingrong as a distinguished guest. Yet the old man never expected that Lin Qingrong would suddenly make a move and kill Hui Yun at this moment. Boom. Shock, rage, and his blood was burning. The eyes of the old man leading the group were bloodshot and dazzling. His body was covered in dense, dazzling symbols that were like burning divine flames. Amidst his sorrowful and angry roar, he directly pounced towards Lin Qingrong. I've said that you'll regret it. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu's figure had also quietly appeared beside the old man who was the leader of the famous family. A faint cold cry was emitted from the corners of his mouth, which lifted into a sneer. A special rune glow appeared in both of his eyes and directly enveloped the old man's body, causing the latter's blood-red eyes to become dull. Sumeru illusion. It really is that brat. In front of the people from the desolate country, Zhang Xingchuan's inverted triangular eyes revealed a smile. To him, although the mysterious purple-haired man looked different from Du Xiaofu when he saw him last time, He had long suspected him. At this moment, he was even more certain. This was because the Sumeru illusion was taught by him. In a flash, as the old man's eyes became lifeless, Du Xiaofu's sleeve shook, and an incomparably domineering aura that looked down on all living things suddenly swept out. At the same time, a fist violently blasted out. Roar! Roar! This fist was faintly accompanied by the roar of a dragon and the long cry of a divine elephant, causing the void to rumble. Lightning flashed and thunder roared in the sky. The void in front of the fist shattered, and the terrifying energy of the runes rippled out like a tsunami. An invisible domineering aura spread out in all directions. At this moment, this aura filled the eyes of the people in the surroundings with fear. In the Desolate Countries group, the eyes of Yi Piaoling, Du Little Tiger, Du Xiaoqing, Jialo Jueyu, Emote Tian Xiao, and the others suddenly trembled violently. This domineering aura was all too familiar to them. With a muffled boom, Du Xiaofu's fist landed on the head of the old man from the famous family. Immediately, the old man's forehead cracked, and his skull crackled as blood gushed out. Bang! Bang! Soon after, the body of the old man from the famous family exploded in midair. Blood splattered everywhere, and the void shattered. A master from the famous family had not even been able to withstand a single punch. His soul had not been able to escape, and his soul had been destroyed. In fact, he had been killed in a way that was too simple. All of this had happened too quickly, and it was closely related to Hui Yuan's death. Everyone was shocked, and many people in the surroundings were dumbfounded. The remaining disciples of the famous family all seemed to have lost their minds, and it was difficult for them to regain their senses. Gulp, gulp. Even Yelu Han and Dugu Finshan were stunned at this moment, and they secretly swallowed their saliva. Long Air, Han Kuayoyo, the Wild Bear Region Lord, the Fire Demon Lion Clan, the Demon Vulture Clan, and the Sky Serpent Clan's experts were also shocked. They had originally wanted the famous family to take the lead, but who would have thought that the two experts from the famous family would be so weak? The other people who had surrounded Yelu Han and the other two were undoubtedly even more shocked and terrified, and they all trembled. Strictly speaking, Master Realm experts like the famous family had been killed in a single move. They were shocked and terrified by such strength. Du Xiaofu's cold gaze swept across the surroundings, and there was disdain and murderous intent in his eyes. Since you've come to provoke me again and again, then all of you can die. After killing the leader of the famous family, Du Xiaofu didn't hold back at all. His figure fluttered like a god, and golden light surged out from his body as he began to use the domineering cultivation technique of the golden-winged Great Peng clan. His speed was too fast, and Du Xiaofu's speed was even faster than lightning. Even Long Air and the other experts couldn't stop him at all. Bang! Several people closest to Du Xiaofu were sent flying, and blood spurted out. Their bodies shattered in the process, and they were directly killed by Du Xiaofu. Qi La, Du Xiaofu's figure appeared, and with a sweep of his long sleeve, layers of golden runes erupted and swept forward. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Rumble, rumble. The golden runes were like a great peng spreading its wings, shattering the void. A blazing light erupted in midair, and a large area of the void was submerged, and many figures were directly smashed into pieces like flies. This is, in the golden-winged Great Peng clan, Jialo Guanyu, Jialo Zhiheng, Jialo Jueyu, and all the other experts trembled, and their gazes were fixed on Du Xiaofu as if they had been electrocuted. Die. Her voice was as cold as ice, and Lian Qingrong also attacked. Her battle robe was covered in snow-like runes, and an ancient aura spread out from her body. Dazzling runes spread out from her body, and the surrounding void was frozen. She was like a snow mountain god in the middle of a world of ice. Many people were used to calling her the successor of the Great Snow Mountain, but they had forgotten her other title, the Snow Spirit War Emperor. She was the War Emperor, and she was famous for her battles. Her pressure descended, and the cold air froze the void, causing the heavens to collapse and the earth to shatter. Chapter 1953. A terrifying icy aura swept out, causing the void to boil and freezing everything within 1,000 miles. Bang, bang, bang. The experts of the famous families in the surroundings were blasted into pieces one after another. Some of the disciples of famous families were pierced by the icy rune arrows and died on the spot. Quick, join forces and kill that guy. Long Air's shout was like thunder. He recovered from the shock and sensed the supreme beast energy of the golden-winged rock clan that the other party had just used. He vaguely guessed the former's true identity and was calling for the experts to join forces to deal with him. The arrow on the bow had to be shot. Although all the experts were shocked and trembling, there was no turning back now. Quick, join forces. The strongest experts of the Fire Red Lion clan, Heavenly Snake clan, and Demon Vulture clan, as well as the Wild Bear Domain Lord and a few other main region experts, attacked at the same time. They had seen the former's terror and attacked with all their might. They didn't hold back at all, and didn't dare to hold back at all. Awoo! In an instant, a fire red lion stood tall and let out a deafening lion roar. A demon vulture covered the sky and rushed out. A heavenly snake coiled in the sky, a fist mark pierced through the void, and a giant bear stood tall in the sky. Rumble. More than a dozen main region and domain realm experts attacked at the same time. The void was vast and mighty as the wind and clouds surged. The sky rumbled as all kinds of beast energies and killing moves were unleashed. The energies surged like waves and swept toward Du Xiaofu with earth-shattering force. Kill! Du Xiaofu shouted. His eyes were deep and golden light instantly soared into the sky. The golden light was like countless golden ribbons that poured down and hung in the void. The golden light emitted a blazing golden light. From the golden light, the phantom of a golden-winged rock traversed the void like a living creature. It soared into the sky, and its eyes were like two suns. Screech! The image of the golden-winged rock cried out, and it was as if thunder was rumbling. Mysterious talisman markings sprayed out with peerlessly domineering and ferocious might as it soared out, and its ferocious might covered and spread out, causing the entire space to tremble. Facing the formula that swept over with earth-shattering force, the phantom of the golden-winged rock soared into the sky. Domineering energy fluctuations rose and fell like the ocean, golden light filled the sky, and runes surged, suppressing everything. Supreme golden-winged rock beast energy. Everyone around was shocked. That was the supreme beast energy of the golden-winged rock race. Could it be him? Many people were stunned. Who else in the world could comprehend the supreme beast of the golden-winged Great Pung Bird clan to such an extent? From the way he attacked just now, many people could clearly feel that his domineering aura was too similar to that guy's. Rumble. Du Xiaofu made his move. He activated the supreme beast energy of the golden-winged rock and blocked the earth-shattering attacks. He forced the 10 or so experts back. The enormous beasts were sent flying through the air. Some of them were even coughing up blood. Domineering Dao. Du Xiaofu let out a roar that sounded like the roar of a dragon and the cry of a divine elephant. It shook the void as if there was a thunderous roar. In an instant, the sound waves swept out in all directions, causing heaven and earth to tremble violently. Ow, 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 ow. The entire void was rumbling, and countless loud roars reverberated in the sky. It was like thunder from the 9 heavens, and it resounded throughout the mortal world, causing one's heart to tremble in fear. Ah! The sound waves reverberated in the sky, causing living creatures to tremble. Those who were close to it revealed a painful expression. The terrifying sound waves swept toward the blood-red light, causing it to boil. A heavenly snake was shaken into 2 halves, a fire-red demon lion was shattered, and a demon eagle was shattered into a bloody mist. Among the near 300 figures in the air, more than 100 of them exploded along with this loud roar. Their corporeal bodies exploded from the inside out. That roar was not a simple sound wave, but one that contained a kind of martial arts. The heavenly snake, the demon eagle, the fire-red demon lion, and the other experts were all pure-blooded demon beasts. They were all giants in the world, and their strength could be said to have reached a terrifying level. Any one of them was ridiculously powerful. Any one of them could sweep away an area and cause the crowd to change their expressions. There were more than a dozen powerful experts from various races. They had joined forces, and some of them had secretly activated their treasures. With such a joint force, even a half-saint expert would not dare to confront them head-on. But now, more than half of these experts had been killed by Du Xiaofu. The remaining few were on their last breaths and were not far from death. Go to hell. Du Xiaofu's killing intent soared. He did not stop. Golden light wrapped around his body, and his domineering aura crushed the surroundings. Du Xiaofu had been restraining his cultivation and strength. At this moment, he had no scruples. He was like a suppressed volcano that was about to erupt. Bang! Du Xiaofu punched a beast expert who had just retreated, creating a bloody hole in the void. Bang! A dying expert was smashed into pieces by Du Xiaofu's palm, and a bloody mist poured out. Du Xiaofu's figure flashed through, leaving not a trace of blood. Roar! A dark golden dragon appeared in the void. It was as if one could not see its head. The dragon's scales were shining, but they were dripping with blood. Some of the dragon's scales were cracked, and the dragon's aura swept across the sky. The space around the huge dragon's body was distorted, but at this moment, the dark golden dragon's aura was dispirited. This was Long Ming's original body, a half-step nirvana saint. He had just been forced back by Du Xiaofu's domineering aura and the supreme beast energy of the golden-winged rock. However, he had relied on his supreme strength to escape death. Die! Du Xiaofu stared at Long Ming. He did not intend to let this grandson of Long Ting go. Killing intent surged in his eyes, and his body emitted purple electric arcs. The sound of thunder resounded. Rumble! Du Xiaofu urged the power of thunder. The purple electric arcs on his body formed an ocean. They were completely condensed by purple electric arcs, and huge waves of thunder emerged. This was Du Xiaofu's thunder profound. Compared to before, the difference between heaven and earth was like heaven and earth. With the 9 revolutions divine Lei Lian in his mind, Du Xiaofu's comprehension of the thunder profound was greatly beneficial. With the thunder martial vein, he was like a tiger that had grown wings. In the purple electric arcs, Du Xiaofu was like a god of thunder. He was going to start a massacre. Given Long Ming's cultivation, he would not even have the power to block Du Xiaofu's attack. Bang! Long Ming's supreme strength was shattered by Du Xiaofu's punch, and this punch landed on his malevolent head. Qila, dark red dragon blood, splashed out along with the dragon liquid. Long Ming's dragon pupils shrank in fear and despair. He could clearly feel his vitality dissipating, and his dragon soul was annihilated. Then, his huge dragon body fell from the sky. Du Xiaofu was like a god of death. At this moment, he started a massacre. He was invincible. Bastard, you will definitely die today. A crimson-red dragon was covered in monstrous flames. Almost instantly, it rushed in front of Du Xiaofu. The crimson flames surged and spread like a crimson wave. This was Long Air's original body. Although he was a distance away from Du Xiaofu's domineering attack and had retreated, he could only watch as Long Ming was killed. Roar! The dragon's roar filled the sky. The aura of immortality was vast and mighty. The dragon's eyes were as bright as the galaxy. A dragon claw tore through the void and grabbed at Du Xiaofu. Long Air had stepped into the realm of immortality. This was why he had looked down on Dongfang Qingmu and the Nether Demon. 3 years ago, with the resources provided by the dragons, he had reached this step. 2 months ago, he had stepped into the realm of immortality. Bang! The speed was very fast. Du Xiaofu's hand exploded with golden light. The Shaoyang seal slammed out and collided with Long Air. With a loud boom, the rune shattered and undulated like a golden ocean. Puff, puff. Unfortunately, a large group of people coughed up blood and were sent flying. They could not withstand the terrifying aftermath. Du Xiaofu's figure retreated a few feet. He was only affected by the impact. Roar! Long Air's huge dragon body was sent flying. His dragon body twisted and shattered the void. He barely managed to stabilize his body. Immortality. Du Xiaofu raised his eyes slightly. He was not surprised by Long Air's strength. He knew about it from the battle that day. Long Air has reached this step. However, at this moment, Long Air did not hold back at all. This made the experts of the major forces exclaim secretly. Roar! Long Air roared angrily. He did not expect to be suppressed even when he used almost all his strength. The dragon's body was indestructible, but the former's physical body was so terrifying. It seemed to be even stronger than his dragon body. Rumble. The sound of the heavens resounded. 6 divine rings shrouded the huge flaming dragon body in the sky. Long Air activated his supreme power. He had been careless last time. His opponent was unfathomable, and he had escaped. This time, he was careless again and suffered heavy losses. At this moment, Long Air used his full strength. With the activation of his supreme power, the space around Long Ming's huge dragon body suddenly began to riot. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. A vast aura swept out in all directions. The runes in the sky flickered. Countless huge dragon phantoms gathered around Long Ming's body. They twisted the sky, and the void was about to collapse. Vaguely, pitch-black cracks covered the sky. This power was too terrifying. Even from far away, it made the experts on the surrounding mountains tremble in fear. Long Air lives up to his reputation. Back then, even Gongsun Wuji and Qin Wudi feared him. The leading elder of the Taoist school said softly. Although he was also in the main region, he believed that if he encountered Long Air, he would definitely not be able to deal with him. Long Air is too strong. An old man from the Confucian school muttered softly. His eyes were filled with shock. He felt that he would not be able to deal with Long Air's aura. Roar, 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 roar. In the sky, countless dragon phantoms surged. Dragon roars were endless, deafening. Long Air's dragon body crossed the void, sweeping towards Du Xiaofu with an incomparably vast aura. Terrifying runes were dazzling, blooming like fireworks. The pitch-black spatial cracks in the void continued to shatter and form, shaking the hearts of the experts and causing their hair to stand on end. This kind of attack was too shocking. The sky cracked along the way, destroying everything. This was Long Air's ultimate move. It contained the supreme power and the ancestral technique of the dragons. It was incomparably powerful and could sweep through all directions. Boom, boom. It was also at this moment that the void shone with boundless golden light, flowing with resplendent runes. From Du Xiaofu's body, his aura suddenly surged into the sky. Golden light rose like a sun. Immediately, golden light erupted from his back. A pair of golden-winged peng wings spread out. These were the true peng wings. When they spread out, their aura surged into the sky, revealing an indescribable pressure of the Tao. At the same time, Du Xiaofu's facial features and bones twisted. In an instant, he returned to his true body. His black hair was suffused with golden light. His face was resolute and resolute. At this moment, he was covered in a cold aura. His figure was tall and straight. As the peng wings flapped behind him, he stood there like a god. It was as if a true peng had come into being. A domineering and terrifying pressure spread out, making people want to kneel and kowtow. Chapter 1954. When such a figure appeared in the sky, everyone's gazes froze. Some people's hearts trembled, and their hair stood on end. They could not help but feel a chill run down their spines. Brother Qingchun, it's Big Brother. Big Brother is here. In the Desolate Nations lineup, Du Xiaoqing's eyes froze for a moment on her beautiful face. Then, she immediately danced with joy as she pulled on Zhang Qingchuan's arm and shouted. She was indescribably excited. Master, that's Master. Runes appeared in the little tiger's pitch-black eyes. He was so excited that his body trembled. It's the young clan leader. That Fu Xiaodu is the young clan leader. Jialo Juekong and the other young golden-winged great rocks exclaimed. They were all dumbfounded. President, Fu Xiaodu is our president. Our president is here. The Desolate Nation's disciples were in an uproar. They saw Fu Xiaodu killing in all directions and sweeping through all the major factions. How domineering and powerful was he? They instantly realized that it was their president. They were all pleasantly surprised and excited. Their blood boiled like boiling water. It really is that brat. I was wondering who had the strength to sweep through all the major factions. Ha! Jialo Guanyu, Jialo Zhiheng, and the other elders of the golden-winged great rocks were stunned for a moment before laughing loudly, sweeping through all the major factions and causing them to flee in all directions. How could such a man be anyone else? He was the young clan leader of the golden-winged great rocks. Jialo Jueyu and Jialo Jueyu looked at the familiar figure with a helpless gaze. However, they soon revealed a smile. The 18 celestial guards, Yi Piaoling, and the sacred array child, Zhun Qingchun, were stunned for a moment. However, they were not too surprised. When they saw Du Xiaofu appear in disguise, they had long suspected Fu Xiaodu's identity. It's really him. In the Confucian school, Kong Sansi stared at that familiar figure. The disciples and experts of the Confucian school around him were all equally astonished. With the power of the sorcerer god of the Confucian school, they should have guessed that this guy was the Demon King. The gazes of the Taoists, Buddhists, and other major forces froze as well. Their faces were filled with shock and astonishment. He knows the martial arts of my Taoist sect. It is indeed this fellow. His disguise technique is extraordinary. He can actually hide all his aura. Su Yangzi was dumbfounded. He had his suspicions back then, but he was deceived by the disguise technique. Now that he thought about it, he could only smile bitterly. At this moment, the people who were the most shocked were definitely not Du Xiaoqing, Su Yangzi, Kong Sansi, and the others. At this moment, Yelu Han and Du Gufinshin were the most shocked. Earlier, Du Xiaofu had attacked too quickly and violently. Coupled with the fact that they had been shocked by Du Xiaofu's true strength and familiar aura, Yelu Han and Du Gufinshin hadn't had the time to join the battle. At this moment, looking at that familiar figure, Yelu Han's face froze as if he had seen a ghost. His mouth was wide enough to stuff a fist in. His heart trembled violently as if someone had hammered his heart. The person who had been together with him all this time was actually the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. This was too difficult for Yelu Han to accept. Du Gufinshin's mouth was wide open in shock, and he didn't retract it for a long time. Even if he was beaten to death, he would never have thought that the person who had abused him and forced him to form an alliance with him was actually the infamous Demon King. Du Xiaofu withdrew his disguise and revealed his true identity, causing everyone's hearts to tremble and their emotions to fluctuate. However, in the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, Du Xiaofu did not stop at all. The thunder martial vein in his body was activated and mysterious runes covered his entire body. Purple lightning filled the sky and a purple-gold color started to surge out from his pair of golden eyes. The runes were resplendent, as if there was a golden-winged rock flying in the sky. Bang! An unprecedentedly powerful aura spread out from the purple-gold lightning figure. The aura swept through the sky. It couldn't be provoked, and it also carried with it a killing intent. Purple arcs of lightning and golden light rose up like a sun, emitting a blazing radiance. In the next moment, a massive purple-gold thunder rock phantom that covered half the sky spread out from Du Xiaofu's body and soared into the sky. The massive purple-gold thunder rock enveloped Du Xiaofu's figure. The two seemed to fuse into one, as if they wanted to soar into the sky. Gee! The great rock screeched and its massive wings spread out. Its entire body was covered in purple-gold lightning, and its eyes shot out purple-gold lightning. It was like two suns illuminating the sky, overlooking the world. Its ominous aura spread out, causing the entire space to tremble. Ayo! Ayo! The dragon phantom covered the sky, and its roar shook the world. Long Tu's terrifying attack brought with it a pitch-black space crack that spread out. Break! The huge purple-gold thunder rock flapped its wings and swept out. Its mighty and overbearing pressure swept out. Its huge body covered more than half of the space. Its entire body was covered with dense purple-gold lightning arcs, which gathered into a huge purple-gold lightning bolt. The great rock soared into the sky and broke through the 9 heavens. Bang! 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 The void was shattered one after another. The countless dragon phantoms in the sky were destroyed by the purple-gold lightning and dissipated. Ayo! The giant dragon soared into the sky. Long Tu's body was shrouded in the supreme power. In an instant, he opened his mouth and roared at the purple-gold thunder rock. Gee! The purple-gold rock poured out tens of thousands of lightning bolts. Its aura couldn't be provoked. The pair of sharp claws under its abdomen also erupted with purple-gold lightning arcs in an instant. The lightning arcs wreaked havoc in the vast sky. It was like a purple-gold sun in the sky. Chi. Long Tu's eyes were trembling. His supreme power was torn apart, and a cold chill spread out from the depths of his dragon soul. Ka. Ka. The purple-gold thunder rock's claws tore the space apart. With pitch-black lightning arcs, one claw grabbed Long Tu's back and the other claw grabbed his huge tail. The sharp claws tore apart the flaming dragon scales and imprisoned the dragon's body with supreme power. In the next moment, Du Xiaofu's figure walked out from the purple-gold thunder rock that covered half of the void. From the body of that tall and straight figure, there was a supreme aura that filled the air and suppressed the heaven and earth. At the same time, Du Xiaofu's unborn and indestructible middle-stage aura was released without reservation. The purple-gold runes flickered and an unprecedentedly powerful aura swept across the sky. This kind of aura was mighty and murderous. It was like the supreme power of thunder and lightning. Boom, boom. Du Xiaofu's fist covered with thunder martial veins was like a purple-gold lightning ball. It heavily landed on Long Tu's ferocious head. The destructive and violent energy spread out and turned into a dazzling lightning rune that swept out like a tsunami. No! Long Tu's huge ferocious pupils shrank. Shock, surprise, despair, and fear surged in his eyes at the same time. He had been looking for the Demon King Du Xiaofu everywhere. He had threatened to kill him and avenge the dragons. But at this moment, Long Tu knew that he was just a joke. He was a dignified, pure-blooded descendant of the dragons, a supreme nirvana expert with an unborn and indestructible cultivation. But in front of the former, he couldn't even withstand a single blow. The other party was too terrifying. Bang! With a muffled sound and splashing dragon blood, Long Tu's head was smashed into pieces. Only a pair of the hardest dragon horns were left in Du Xiaofu's hands. Half of the dragon's body fell down. Huff, huff. With the death of Long Tu, the hearts of all the creatures in the sky seemed to have stopped beating. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. That kind of battle was too terrifying. The most unbelievable and shocking thing was that the unborn and indestructible Long Tu was directly killed by the Demon King Du Xiaofu. A supreme expert had fallen just like that. The proud son of the dragons was buried in the heavenly Yu Mountain, unborn and indestructible. The Demon King Du Xiaofu has also stepped into that step. Among the major forces, there were people trembling in fear. Looking at Du Xiaofu, who suddenly appeared in front of him, Han Ke-ju's heart trembled. Long Ming couldn't block one move. After being seriously injured, he was probably no match for Long Ming. He couldn't even muster up the will to fight. Xiaojing, kill him quickly. Quick! Such a shout came out of Han Ke-ju's mouth. He shouted loudly at the beautiful figure on the mountain peak. At this moment, Han Ke-ju's heart was about to break down. He still remembered the first time he saw this man. At that time, the former was so weak that he didn't take him seriously. But in just a few years, the man in front of him had reached a level that made his soul tremble. Such growth was too terrifying. It was already heaven-defying. Now that he thought about it, Han Ke-ju realized that Du Xiaofu didn't kill him on purpose when they fought a few days ago. Han Ke-ju's heart was filled with deep regret. If he had known this would happen, he would have killed this little bastard in the legalism. But it was too late for regrets now. On the mountain peak, the fairy-like woman turned her head to look in his direction. Then, she turned her head away. She was calm and unruffled, as if none of this had anything to do with her. Du Xiaojing, do you want to betray the legalism? Quick, do it. Quick. Han Ke-ju was in despair. True fear crept into the depths of his soul. Du Xiaojing had no intention of saving him. He couldn't control him at all. The thing he was most worried about still happened. Old man, I said that day that I would definitely kill you one day. Du Xiaofu looked at Han Ke-ju. This old man looked so dignified, but he was the most detestable and vicious. Ha ha ha. Han Ke-ju laughed in extreme fear, but his laughter was hideous. He looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "Little bastard, do you dare to kill me? Don't forget, your mother is still in the legalism. If you dare to kill me, You'll never see your mother again. Chapter 1955. Is that so? But I don't think it's a big deal to kill you. As long as my mother can still be threatened by legalism, then my mother will be safe in legalism, right? Du Xiaofu sneered and walked toward Han Ke, the murderous intent in his eyes undisguised. Being stared at by that murderous gaze, Han Ke trembled all over and involuntarily took a step back. Han Ke's eyes were trembling. He didn't want to die. Even if his lineage spirit was destroyed and the saint stage was getting further and further away from him, he didn't want to die. Du Xiaofu was right. Even if Han Aodong could be used to threaten the father and son, she would not be able to do anything. Moreover, as long as Du Xiaojing was in legalism, Han Aodong would be safe. He was no threat to this bastard in front of him. His last glimmer of hope was destroyed. Brat, I'll kill you. Suddenly, Han Ke roared savagely and attacked instantly. Spells surged and runes unfolded, shocking the void. With a strange phenomenon, he suddenly charged toward Du Xiaofu. Han Ke knew that he had no chance of escaping. He could only wait for an opportunity. Still want to make one last struggle? As Du Xiaofu spoke, the golden rock wings on his back flapped. Golden light filled the sky as he punched out with his fist. Bang! The void was shattered, and the space was in chaos. Many creatures did not even see what was going on. They only saw Han Ke's body fly backward and spit out large mouthfuls of blood. Golden light streaked across the sky like a bolt of lightning. Under the gazes of the crowd, Han Ke, who had been sent flying, suddenly came to a halt in midair. Behind Han Ju, there was a slender hand holding her back, stopping her from retreating. The owner of the slender hand was dressed in a long green dress, and her eyes were like stars. She was extraordinary. Such a woman. Who else could it be but Du Xiaojing? Oh my God. What's going on? Oh no. Is Du Xiaojing going to attack? Could it be that the siblings are going to start a war? Du Xiaojing has always been a supporter of legalism, and Du Xiaofu is a thorn in the side of legalism. Will there be a battle between the siblings? When they saw Du Xiaojing, the air froze as countless gazes focused on him. Everyone present was well aware of Du Xiaojing's strength. Back then, even that mysterious group of young men and women had to retreat in defeat. If Du Xiaojing wanted to save Han Ke Yao now, he wondered who would be better compared to the Demon King Du Xiaofu. One was the Demon King, and the other was the innate Holy Sovereign. Once they started fighting, it would shake the world. Seeing his sister Xiaojing, Du Xiaofu also raised his eyes slightly. Light flickered in his eyes as he stopped in midair. Xiaojing, quick, kill that little bastard. Some of the desolate nation's disciples had already begun to clean up the battlefield, plundering the treasures and cutting off the refining treasures from the beast corpses. Although the surrounding living beings' eyes were bloodshot, there were powerful dragon corpses, powerful demon vultures, and heavenly snake corpses, all of which were precious treasures. No one dared to step forward. The desolate nation's supremes were feared by everyone. No one dared to provoke them. They're all dead. Sigh, dragons, legalism, famed clans, heavenly snake tribe, demon vulture tribe, and fire demon lion tribe. These guys are really unlucky to have provoked that demon king. Fu Xiaofu, Du Xiaofu, haha, what a great Fu Xiaofu. The experts from the various factions on the mountain peaks exclaimed, I'm afraid no one below the Saint Realm can resist that demon king. Indestructible. This growth speed is too fast. Du Xiaojing is also indestructible. These siblings are too abnormal. Monsters. Everyone from the Du family is a monster. What is the background of this Du family? With such talent, why were they unknown before? The crowd discussed animatedly, exclaiming in shock.